Everyone, and welcome to the Dare County Board of Commissioners, August the 1st, 2022, Dare County Board of Commissioners meeting. At this time, I'd like to call forward the Reverend David Morris for an invocation. Reverend Morris, thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you. It is good to be with you all this morning. And on behalf of the North Dare Ministerial Association, I offer both greetings and appreciation for this opportunity. Will you pray with me?
Absolutely.
Spirit of life, God of many names, whose highest name is always love, we give thanks for the beauty and the bounty of the resources of this beautiful home of ours, which make our life possible. We give thanks for the many visitors drawn here by that beauty and bounty who add so much to the richness of our life and our livelihoods. We give thanks for the many people of this county, the residents whose work and whose life turns this from a beautiful place into a beautiful community. We give thanks for all of those whose work, paid and unpaid, on behalf of this county, both staff and volunteers, does so much to enrich our lives and make them smoother. And we give thanks for these leaders this morning, who give so much of their time and their energy, their thought and their effort to guide the county through everything that is our life. Here in this beautiful place, it can seem that we are remote from the rest of the world, and indeed it is that feeling of being a place apart, perhaps, that draws so many here. But we know that the currents that trouble our nation and our world do not stop at our borders. And so even here, we find ourselves confronting issues and struggles that we see in the newspapers every morning and hear on the radio and read on our computer screens. In all things, may these leaders of ours and may all of us be guided by conscience, be guided by respect for the dignity of every person, by compassion that all the world's religions call us to, be guided by principle and people over politics and power. May all find the wisdom and the courage to do everything that needs to be done, from simple decisions to the most complex. We give thanks for our life and all that is our life, in the name that each of us holds most holy, and which we call in our heart now. Amen.
Amen. May we stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. County Manager.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Item 1 on the agenda is the chairman's opening remarks.
Thank you, County Manager. A couple items this morning. Welcome again. I hope each and every one of you are having a nice summer. Here we are, August 1 already. I have to admit, it's been brutally hot, but I'm not going to complain because I'm not a winter person, and I said I didn't care how hot it would get this summer, but I lied. I worked in the yard Saturday, and I thought I was going to pass out. It was so brutal. It was unbelievable. I was attempting to do that again late yesterday afternoon But I said, no, I'm gonna pass on this. The weather's been really hot, so y'all be careful out there. If you're working, please hydrate, please hydrate. Last week, our board had a 5-on-5 meeting with the school board. 5-on-5, if you're not familiar with it, we set that up a number of years ago with our county manager, myself, 2 members of our board, Vice Chairman Overman and Commissioner Ross, and our finance officer, Mr. Dave Clausen, along with their superintendent, their chair of their board, 2 of their members, and their finance. And I called the meeting because I just wanted to see where we are, getting ready to begin the school year, and see how things were going. And really had a good meeting. I really felt like it was an awesome meeting. We had an opportunity to meet Blackstock, the new superintendent, interim, and their board is diligently searching for a superintendent. So stay tuned for that. Our school numbers are right there where they have been. Unbelievable. Commissioner Ross pointed out and made their 5 aware that we wanted to continue where we were, with Dare County being number 1. What is it, 212, wasn't it?
Well, the last official reporting, they have not reported these. It's a public school forum. That's the public-private partnership that reports the data. And North Carolina's 100 counties are ranked each year under several metrics in public education. And out of 100 counties in 2019, the last official year, published in the spring of 2020, Dare County ranked number 2. Now, that was a bit of a slip because in 2018, published in the spring of 19, Dare County was number 1 out of 100. So the standard that's been set, and sadly the prior administration has now moved on, but that track record, that performance level is on the books, on the record, and that's what I try to explain to the new folks in the room.
Putting it bluntly, Commissioner Ross put them on notice that we wanted to keep it that way. But
It was gently put, ladies and gentlemen.
It was politely put, but I have no doubt with the talent of teachers and folks that we have that will continue, and that's awesome. I mean, we should really be proud of that. The second thing I have on my agenda this morning is Dare Challenge. I cannot thank Commissioner Bateman enough. It's unbelievable what he's been able to accomplish with Dare Challenge. As you all know, it's we're expanding the residential substance abuse facility. And our public information officer, Dorothy Hester, has got a video showcasing the expansion. It's a $2 million expansion project, which our board approved in January of 2021. It includes the construction of almost 10,000 square foot multi-purpose building facility with a full kitchen, dining room, conference room, as well as office space and 4 additional classrooms. The 2 new dormitories that will each house 16 individuals will also be constructed on the site, which this will triple the number of individuals with substance abuse issues that Outer Banks Challenge staff members can assist at this facility. I don't know if you've been by there recently, but the land's been cleared and a lot of trees, stumps and everything pulled out of that, so this is moving right along. It was funded by a $900,000 grant from the state of North Carolina and a $200,000 grant from Dare County and a $400,000 private donation. So for more details, I'd like for you to go on darenc.com/projects and review it. But this could not have taken place without the numerous phone calls that Commissioner Bateman made to folks on the state level, and him securing even that private donation as well. So Commissioner Bateman, thank you for what you've done there. This is really, really huge. This is also in addition to our board stepping up to the plate several years back with the funding the DARE court. I mean, I could not be more proud of what our board's done over the years. We're a proactive board. We don't react. We're proactive in doing everything we can in this community to make it a better place for each of us. And so, Commissioner Bateman, thank you. It's unbelievable.
I need to stop you right there.
Okay.
This is not about, I'm just a vehicle for trying to do the right thing. I'm not going to go into the spirituality of it, but this is all God working, and that's my story, and that's what we're going to stick to. And there's a lot of people that are responsible for this. There's a lot of donors within the community. We're just in the starting process of it, but the Community Foundation, we have independent donors, we have organizations, we have private businesses. Everybody's chipped in to make this thing work. So I want to get it straight real quick. It has nothing to do with my insignificant self. It has to do with the community. So
Thank you, Commissioner Bateman. He's being very humble, folks, but anyhow, he worked really hard on this. Next item I have is beach nourishment. Wow. Who would have thought? I mean, we've done beach nourishment projects, but who would have thought we would have had Avon and Buxton and Nags Head, Kill Devil Hills, Kitty Hawk, Southern Shores, Duck going all at one time. It's just unbelievable. We have stepped up to the plate once again, this board, over the years. What are we approaching now, Bobby? Over $150 million in beach, David? How much? 150 million?
Over 100 for
Yeah.
sure.
In beach nourishment projects. Avon's finished. Avon's done. It's unbelievable. I can't.
It's gorgeous.
The public information officer, myself, Dorothy Hester, are going down to a meeting Wednesday, and we're gonna check Avon out. We're gonna check Buxton out. They're pumping in Buxton right now, doing a maintenance project. We were fortunate to where we had some loss with doing that maintenance project sooner than the 5 years because we had an engineered beach, and what we lost, we applied for FEMA, and FEMA's given us some money, and we've got a certain period of time to use that. So that maintenance project's been done less than 5 years, but we've been fortunate enough to get FEMA money. Same thing with Nags Head. Nags Head's underway. And Kitty Hawk, they've finished Kill Devil Hills, and they're working on Kitty Hawk as we speak. So this is important, folks. This is our economic engine, our beaches, and so this is good stuff, and especially when they can do projects, multiple projects like Avon and Buxton together, because if you had to do them separately, the mobilization costs would just be prohibitive. Same way with the northern beaches with that project. So stay tuned. Our beaches are our economic engine. The other item I have this morning is Sloan, Ronnie Sloan with the Outer Banks Hospital. As most of y'all are aware, we've had some major issues in Manio, and we're following them very, very closely. Ronnie Sloan and Vidant are trying to resolve this issue that we have here in Manio. He announced on July the 22nd that plans were in the works to renovate the property that houses the Outer Banks Family Medical Practice here in Manteo, and they're going to build an additional 2,500 square foot addition to this building and certainly incorporate more staff. He has, and he's did it publicly, and he's done it on his video, acknowledged that they're rebounding from a chaotic time as well, just like the rest of the country with staffing and help. He cautioned that it was going to take a little bit of time, but they opened up a phone line exclusively for former Manteo patients, and that phone line's open for them to register and get their names in, and that's going to end August the 8th. He also announced that a new physician, Dr. David Wortham, he began work at the facility July 15th. Another new physician, Dr. Aaron Baker, is expected to arrive there in October. And so he also reported that an OB-GYN physician, Dr. Robin Dillard, is coming to work at the Outer Banks Women's Care later this summer or early fall. And so stay tuned. They're working very, very hard to try to resolve the medical issues and problems that Manteo's having, as well as on the beach. So, County Manager, that's, last but not least, the Rodanthe Bridge is open. Ta-da! Last Thursday. How was it, Danny? This morning?
55 miles an hour.
Murray Helen, I know you were biting at the bullet to drive over that thing, so glad y'all were able to use that this morning, headed this way. So thank heavens that's finally open, and once again, it's phenomenal the short period of time in the last several years with the Etheridge Bridge, Mark Bastite, Netta Rodanthe. Who knows what's next? But this is certainly hopefully will help traffic and help us get folks on and off the Hatteras Island in a safe manner. County Manager, that completes my comments.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. That brings us to item 2, which is the service pins. We have 2 months of service. We had a mid-month meeting last month, and it was in the evening, so we usually don't do service pins on the evening meeting. So we have the July pins as well as our August pins. For July 1st, we have Roxanna Ballinger. She's a Health Ed Communication Outreach Director at Health and Human Services, and she will be receiving her tenure pin from Sheila Davies.
How many years, Bobby?
10.
10. Sheila, Roxanna? I could have sworn it was probably 20 years, Roxanna.
Absolutely. Well, when you think of the work she's done in 10 years, it's worth 20, right?
Absolutely.
So, well, good morning. It's my pleasure to be here before you this morning and presenting Roxanna with her 10-year service pin. Roxanna has spent the last 10 years as our Health Education Outreach Director, and in that encompasses under Health Education Outreach a lot of programs under public health. Some that come to mind, the WIC program, our Women, Infant, and Children program, our health promotion work, community health needs assessment falls under that, Healthy Care Linens of the Outer Banks oversight. But many of you know her tireless efforts with the substance abuse work that happens in Dare County. And she, as you well know, co-chairs the Saving Lives Task Force with Commissioner Overman. Roxanna actually, prior to coming to work for us, spent 32 years working for Chesapeake Regional. And when I was looking back at her profile, I'm like, how did that happen? She must have started as a child. And she basically said she almost did. So anyway, but she is a very caring and empathetic leader. She's well respected by those she supervises, by her colleagues, by you all, by the community, and with all the stakeholders that she works with, which is quite numerous when you think of the work that happens under health education and outreach. I've talked to several of her coworkers, and they wanted to share some comments, and so I'll read a few of those. Roxana is a wonderful supervisor and colleague. She has been very patient with me as I've learned my new job, and I appreciate that she treats me as a well-respected peer. She has never made me feel bad or silly for asking questions or making mistakes. She is approachable and is easy to reach when you need her. She leads and supervises in a way that all team members feel respected and valued. I enjoy working with her, and I'm grateful to have her as a supervisor and mentor. Another employee shared, Roxana has invested in me and my career since day one. She has been someone whose opinion I seek and value. She has provided so much support to me over the years, not just professionally, but has also supported me through personal challenges in my life as well. I'm so very thankful for Roxana being an integral part of our team and her leadership of our unit. And one thing I really appreciate about Roxana is how she comes alongside of us to train us and help us solve problems. She can get down in the details if we need her to, but she also gives us the freedom to make decisions and be self-sufficient in our jobs. Roxana, thank you so much for all you do for our department and for the community, and congratulations on 10 years. I won't put you on the spot for how many more, but I appreciate your service. So,
Mr. Chairman, I must say that, as I've said many times, Roxana Ballinger is the best co-chair in the state of North Carolina. Her work with the Substance Use Task Force, Saving Lives Task Force, has been unbelievable, and she absolutely works tirelessly in that regard. Roxana, thank you.
Second.
10 more.
Next, we have Christy Rice. Christy Wright, she's a human resource analyst with our HR department, and she'll be receiving her 25-year pin from Elizabeth Riley.
Welcome this morning, ladies.
Good morning. I am here to congratulate Christy Wright on 25 years with Dare County. She started in July of 1997 as a floater, and then she was promoted to HR, and she has served many roles there as a personnel technician, a human resources specialist, a human resources generalist, and now she is an analyst. She wears many, many hats in our department and is always willing to jump in whenever she is needed. She handles our workers' comp. She handles it from start to finish. She does mediation. She gets employees back to work. She's dealing with doctors all the time, so it's a very important role for us. She handles all of our family medical leave. She is our guru for our benefits and our supplements, so she gets employees straight in that regard. She also inputs all of our HR information, so anything from address changes to salary input to benefit changes, and they have to be done individually, and she handles all of that for our 773 full-time employees and our 150-plus part-time. She is also an integral part of our open enrollment process, employee relations, exit interviews, employee of the month, and there's many more things that pop up every day that are different. When Christy is not working, she is managing at Daryl's, and she can also be found in Raleigh cheering on the pack with her daughter Laura Kate, who is a teaching fellow at NC State as a junior, and her daughter Josie is a rising freshman at Manteo High School, and she is traveling all over the state and Virginia at travel softball. So Christy's very busy. With Dare County and Human Resources are very lucky to have Christy, and we would not be able to do it without her. 25 years is a long time, so I hope she has at least 10 to 15 more, because I need her on my staff.
Absolutely.
But thank you so much, Christy, for all you do. Thank you.
Next, we have Kelly Netton. She's a public health educator, and she'll be receiving her 15-year pin from Roxana Ballinger.
Welcome, ladies.
Good morning. I have to move this down a little bit because I'm not as tall as most. Thank you, and I love doing this part of my job when this happens. I've known Kelly, actually, I met Kelly before I was hired. I came down here, and she was one of the first people that I met, and I remember her. She was very quick to take my picture. And I can't remember why my picture was being taken. I think it was just to send it around, you know, who's coming and that kind of thing. And she was so energetic and just so excited, I remember then. And she's still like that now. She's just gotten older. We've both gotten older, but she's still like that now. Kelly was hired in August 1st of 2017. You're right, as a public health education specialist. And then she was promoted to a public health educator in 2012. And she recently has been promoted to a health education and outreach supervisor just a week or so ago. So Kelly was also Employee of the Quarter for our agency in 2014. She has a Bachelor of Science from ECU in Health Education and Promotion, and she went back to school. She decided that she wanted to be more knowledgeable and become more educated, and she went back and got her master's in public administration from UNC Pembroke. I remember when she did that, a lot of stressful times when you go back to school when you're an adult and still working, and families, the whole 9 yards. I've done that twice in my life, so I knew what she was going through. Kelly is very well versed in our programs. She's one of those people that has the institutional knowledge that you really can't do without. She is well respected, and she really is our go-to person on many, many things. She thinks out of the box. She always wants to help people. Those COVID numbers that you saw coming out during the pandemic every day, this lady right here.
Well done.
She was the one who did that, and she worked on weekends to get that stuff done, at night, and she did it for a long time. So great work on that, Kelly. Thank you. Kelly has progressed in her public information role. She is, you know, I remember when she first started, she was just learning, but she had such a desire to learn about graphics and design, and she is a self-learner. She's a self-starter. She progressed through her learning in public information. She's wonderful in program development and management. She's involved in, I want to say, every little piece that goes on in our agency. She truly is in her role, and that's why her institutional knowledge is so important and so valuable. She's considered the go-to person for all things in public information. Like I said, she published the metrics 7 days a week on when we were going through the pandemic. She is well respected. People appreciate everything that she does, and I know that I can depend on her anytime, day or night. I don't call her at night if I don't have to, but she's like, well, call me, you know, if you need it, I'll do it. And I'm like, no, we'll do it tomorrow. We'll do it tomorrow, you know. But she's always there for everyone, and we truly appreciate it. Her coworkers really appreciate everything she does, and I do too. Kelly, thank you for all you do, and it's my pleasure to present you with your 15-year pen and many, many years more.
Halfway there.
Thank you so much.
Roxanna was talking about Kelly's public information, that she serves in that capacity for health, and I just would like to thank her because she is a strong member of our Joint Information Center at Emergency Management, and it means a lot to have people that are able to come in and support the operation the way that she's able to. So thank you, Kelly.
And next we have Ashley DeLuise. She's an administrative specialist for our reval department, and she'll be receiving her 20-year pin from Hosey Wilson.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Board of Commissioners.
Good morning.
I'll put that back up.
Ashley's a little nervous, but look over your right shoulder, because your family and friends are here to support you. I was going to make some jokes about that, and I've been needling Ashley a little bit, so I'm not going to do that. Main thing is these accomplishments deserve recognition, and it's important that we share in these milestones because they are symbolic of dedication. So good job. It's a little longer than that. I told her I'd keep it brief. She was hired in 2002 as an office support specialist to work with reval support. Since 2002, we've conducted 3 reappraisals, one in 2005, one in 2013, and one recently in 2020. So Ashley is the primary point of contact in our office. Her telephone number, her direct line is listed on every tax bill, every listing form, any correspondence that goes out of our office. So Ashley is the one that gets all the traffic, whether walk-in, telephone, email, you name it, she gets it. So if you consider the timing of these projects and the economic, let's just say the market at the given times of these projects in 2005 was similar to what we have happening right now. In 2013, it was the exact opposite, which might make one think that you don't have inquiries and there is not much correspondence between our office, but that's not true. 2020, as you remember, our aggregate increase was approximately 26%. So we had a busy time with that reappraisal as well. And then also with the COVID-19 pandemic, you can imagine the type of correspondence we have. Also, if you think about our tax base, and the taxpayers in our jurisdiction are from every state in the United States, and with the recent tax billing mailing, there were 89 foreign addresses. So we have taxpayers all over the world, and our property tax is different than all their property tax. So that is difficult to field questions like that. So I would have to say that she does a remarkable job at that. She is pleasant, she is courteous, she is helpful, she's friendly. Just the other day, it's probably been, I don't know, a month ago, I don't see as well as I used to, and I wear reading glasses, but I can hear pretty well. So I'm walking by her cubicle. She has an interesting place where she works, and I heard her talking to someone, a taxpayer, on the telephone. I just stopped for a minute, and I listened, and I was like, wow, she's really good at that. And it's good that she was talking to them and probably not me. But that's her primary focus, and I would say that her primary job responsibility is customer focus. And that is a characteristic that is listed in our performance appraisals, and really where our main direction should be. So that is what she does day in and day out. So we don't do reappraisals all the time. So takes considerable planning and preparation, typically a couple of years, to do one. So we have sometimes time for other projects that involve things like personal property, boats, rentals, things like this. We send out approximately 50,000 listing forms, of which we have to work and list assets, remove assets, things like that. She's very involved in all these projects. She manages our photo database, which people might think that's, wow, photos. Well, there's hundreds of thousands of them. She does a lot of tasks that sometimes we may consider mundane and like they never end. And they end, but then they start right over again. And they're important. And she does these, and I don't ever even think I've heard her sigh. And I sigh a lot. But that's something that is important in the job we do, that we have to be very detail-oriented. We handle significant amounts of data, and it's sensitive data. So she does that very, very well. Never a complaint. She manages her time well. She misses very little work. Just the other day, I noticed a 2-hour segment in January, on January 4th, and I said, that's got to be an error. So I emailed her. I said, did you put that in by error? I mean, I'm seeing it, so why is it in there? She said, no, I got an eye doctor's appointment on the 4th at like 3 o'clock. It's the only time I could get one. So that's important to me from a management standpoint. So all that said, I congratulate you on 20 years. Somebody said, when are you going to retire? I was like, oh, wait a minute. Hold on a second now. Let's not talk about that. So she lives in Wanchese with her husband, Jonathan. Jonathan manages the landfill transfer site. Her dad retired from Dare County. She, spare time, I would say she's an animal lover. She has a couple of horses, and a rescue mastiff, and some other dogs, I think. So, and I didn't know there were rescue mastiffs, but apparently there are. She and Jonathan live in Wanchese with their son Chase, and he just turned 10 this weekend, right? So congratulations, Ashley. Thanks for the 20.
Thank you.
That brings us to our Employee of the Month, and Jody Wyatt will make that presentation.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Today, I have the honor of presenting Dare County's August Employee of the Month. For a while, I have worked with this employee from a distance, so to speak, but have only very recently started working as her direct supervisor, as in probably a week ago, when Holly Meekins retired. This employee has worked for Dare County years ago in the 80s, back at the old county building downtown. She left to take care of her family and returned for a couple of years in the early 2000s. She was most recently rehired in 2020 and now works as a foreign language interpreter in the Dare County Public Health Clinic. So Olga, will you please join me so that I can... so that I can rave about how wonderful you are. Olga Roberts helps interpret for patient visits in the clinic, visits like maternal health and family planning. She interprets for our community outreach appointments like Baby Links and BSEP. She interprets for WIC nutrition visits, outreach appointments, and with our newest social worker for counseling visits. The providers and nurses love working with her, and she never hesitates to go the extra mile for our patients and their families. It is a daily game of find Olga because she's always with a patient and someone else always needs her. This lady is a force for good, and I mean that sincerely. She is a force. She has a heart for helping people that is rare and honorable, and she won't stop until she feels like she has met all of her patients' needs. She calls it being a patient advocate, and I think she is truly a breath of fresh air and a crucial piece of what holistic healthcare should be. She reminds me often that she knew me when I was a little girl, when she worked with my dad and Terry Wheeler downtown. And when she says it with such respect and pride in her eyes that I can't help but see what an impact they made in her young life. I imagine there will be a day when people will mention her name with the same esteem because of the impact that she makes in their lives every day. So congratulations, Olga, and thank you for all that you do.
Jody, what language or languages does Olga help us with interpreting?
Spanish.
Spanish, very
Spanish
good.
interpreter, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we go to public comment, those of you that received an award this morning, please go out through this door so we can get a picture made.
That's great.
We'll wait just a second.
I'd like to see that.
And there goes the crowd.
Rob, I guess you got him before the meeting. I guess you talked to him before the meeting.
Oh, hell yeah.
Time has been set aside for public comment. If you have public comment this morning and you've not signed up, please raise your hand. When you do, I'll recognize you. Please come to the podium, state your name and where you're from. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. The green light will come on when your time begins. The yellow light will come on when you have about a minute left. And when the red light comes on, you need to complete your remarks. I don't think we have anything from Buxton. No public comment from Buxton. So on our list today, we have Melissa Gray.
Welcome, Ms. Gray.
How are you today? I'm coming back to follow up you guys' last meeting. You recognized some pretty good softball players in our county. I just want to follow up to let you know those kids went on and played an actual World Series. The 12U girls went to Concord, North Carolina, and finished 12th out of 20 in a 81 hosted team tournament. Yeah, 81. Wow. I'll get to that in a minute. The 8U girls just played this past weekend in Red Oak, and they were champions. There were 7 teams in their age group out of a 30-team hosted tournament. The reason I'm throwing the big numbers out at you, the entry fees that we pay to play in these travel tournaments average $450 per team. These World Series tournaments are $1,000 per team. So I'm talking revenue dollars. That's $81,000 to Concord and $30,000 to Red Oak. As you know, the baseball boys are killing it too, and they are they're very successful, and they are just leaving Boone this past weekend. I talked about restricted funds the last time I was here. I do know a lot of the feedback I'm getting from baseball parents and softball parents is, why are our facilities not the same as other counties' facilities in the state? I travel a lot. A lot of you don't know, this is my 3rd year as the organizer and president of the OBX Pirates. We're a travel team. We have 8U, 10U, 12U, and I will have a 14U team starting in August. I also am the Emmanuel Middle School softball coach. I also do Babe Ruth, and I am on the board with Babe Ruth. I specifically said revenue streams for a reason. We have for years wanted to host a tournament here. I think you're going to get feedback from baseball along with soccer. They're all travel programs in this county where we can provide a revenue stream to help offset the restricted funds I spoke about, probably pump more money back into the Parks and Recs budget line items. There's a lot that can be done in this county, but I feel our facilities need to be updated. You can ask Tim White and his staff. I am a coach that is at the fields more than anybody in this county. I'm at the fields 4 nights a week. I coach 4 different teams, as I said, and I don't know what avenue I need to take next. I don't know if I need to call one of you individually, if there is a special committee I can be a part of. I'm not just coming asking for revenue dollars. I'm coming because I want to be a part of the expansion as well. So I do know baseball parents have said they have the same concerns. I don't want to be one of those people that like bring a baseball mom, a softball mom, and also the parents that have baseball and softball kids playing. I just would like to see some kind of addressed, I'd like to be addressed in my concerns and see what I can do to help not only Parks and Recs, but and academics in this town too, because the 2 group of girls you had here, my team, the 12U girls alone, every single one of those kids are honor students. Every single one are honor students. So you talked about CEOs, you talked about education. This is part of a catapult for their education, and athletics and academics do go hand in hand. So if you could please tell me what I need to do next to kind of talk to one of you, help out. I'm not just asking for money, I'm asking for a bigger picture and being a part of the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gray. Let me respond to you since our last meeting. Our board is fully aware that our facilities have some age on them. No doubt, no question. Since that last meeting, well, let me back up. We have a CIP project that we've talked about for our Parks and Recs, and that's in our CIP, and we'll be addressing that soon. But since the last meeting, I have met with the president of one of the leagues that uses the 2 ball fields at Kitty Hawk. Mm-hmm. We also went out behind the middle school and looked at those fields, addressed that with him and some issues. The following week, just last week, I had the county manager meet myself and Mr. White, who's the head of our Parks and Rec, last week. We all 3 of us went back out there, and I pointed out some issues at all of those fields that we needed to do something now. Keep in mind that the school has facilities as well. We don't take care of those facilities. That's the schools. And I don't know if y'all play on those fields or not. But if you do, take it to the BOE. Call me. You can get my phone number online. I don't mind sharing it with you right now, 252-216-8240. But we're going to do some things at those 2 ball fields with respects to getting rid of the rust off of the dugouts and off the buildings. We're going to look at the dugouts behind the school system, the middle school, and the girls that play softball on that other field. We're going to take care of those. The dugouts are going to be painted. The field's going to be looked at and see if we can do some things at the softball field with sod and some more dirt, clay. We're gonna look at repairing the fences. We're gonna look at. I got a whole multitude of things, but we're gonna try to improve all 4 of those fields sooner rather than later. Right now, Tim's working to get some figures for us. We're going to try to do a lot of this with our maintenance folks, but we're going to move on this rather quick within the next couple of months, right, Bobby?
Yes, sir. And you mentioned the CIP, but in our capital improvement plan, you all hired Oakley Collier.
That's right.
To go out and do an evaluation of all of our facilities and bring back recommendations to bring them up to speed and to modernize them. So that process has been in the works since last year where they're doing that. So we're aware of the concerns that you have.
So your concerns don't fall on deaf ears.
Yeah, we hear you.
We hear you loud and clear. And since that meeting, I moved immediately. I called Tim. I said, Tim, meet me out there with the president of that group. Let's look at these fields. Let's see what we can do. The very next week, I had Bobby and Tim meet me out there as well. Now, I am gonna say this.
Yes, sir.
I'm a neat freak.
Me too. And I understand what happened in Kitty Hawk, but I don't go to Kitty Hawk. I go to Manio.
So you know where I'm going with that.
I do know.
You know
where
where
you're
I'm
going.
I don't know where you're going, sir.
I do
Where
know.
are we going with this? I don't know where we're
Where
going.
I'm, well, just stay tuned.
Yeah,
Commissioner Ross, I'll tell you.
I do know where he's going because the dugouts in Manio at the field.
Thank you very much.
I know where you're going.
So if you're gonna be a part of this league and
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna do that, let's have some pride in it and clean it up.
I know.
I can plant potatoes in the dugouts at Kitty Hawk.
I know. But like I
Okay.
said, I don't use the
So
Kitty
guess
Hawk.
what else we're gonna do? We're gonna do, and we hadn't done this since I've been a chair, commissioner, and we hadn't done this for 30 years or more. I said, no, moving forward, we're gonna take care of these items. We're gonna get them done, even though some of it is not our responsibility, but we're gonna get it done. And when we get it done, we're gonna have a MOU put together between the league and us, and guess what? That MOU is gonna tell you what our responsibilities are and what your responsibilities are.
That would be
And
great.
then there ain't no more questions.
That would be great.
that
Because
make sense?
I mean, I coach all three, like I told you. I'm at the middle school. And my assistant coaches tended to the field this year because there is no clean cut who's responsible for this, that, and the other with schools. And I will take it up with the Board of Education as well. I just want to make sure that it's what I can do to help. I'm not here just I want to help in the process.
Call me,
too.
seriously.
Okay, I will.
Because guess what?
I will.
I wasn't gonna say this, but guess who's gonna paint them dugouts?
Probably me and you, sir.
You got it. Tim White looked at me and said, are you crazy? You get to paint, Tim, and the materials. I'll paint those dugouts.
I'll meet you
Did I
there.
not, Bobby Allen?
I'll meet you there. And I guarantee you.
So guess what? We're gonna make it look nice, and
Okay.
we're gonna fix all that backstop and all that stuff, and we're gonna
All right.
put some stuff, clay that, we want it to be nice for our kids.
I understand.
We want it to be nice.
I just feel like we're
You
growing. We're
know,
growing.
we were standing out there in the dugout, and I said to Tim, I said, why is all this equipment sitting in the dugout? I said, why can't they get a storage shed? Well, lo and behold, I look back there, there's a storage shed.
Oh, you
Guess
kidding?
what?
Oh, it's probably full of
I
trash.
walked back there, I opened the door.
Yeah,
It's horrible.
I believe it.
It's horrible.
Did you go to
guess
Manio,
what?
though? Did you go to Manio? Did you go to Westcott Park and see
I've
how
been
clean that
there.
was?
Yeah, I've been
Because
there.
that's the field I take care of. That's the field that we empty the trash can. I can't speak for Kitty Hawk, and I understand that was bad, but I can speak for what I've done in Westcott Park.
Well, you call me.
I will.
Between the two of us, we'll get them
I'll
straight.
paint with you.
Okay.
And I have kids and parents that will help too. I just don't want all them to come in here. I just want to be the voice and I want to help anyway.
Well, it hadn't gone on deaf ears, is what I'm trying to tell you.
Well, I'll call you.
All right,
I thank you. Thank you for your time.
all right.
Next is Laurie Amatucci.
Good morning, Lori.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Hi, Lori. Hi,
My
Bill.
name's Laurie Amatucci. I'm currently serving as the president of the board of the Outer Banks SPCA, which is the organization that runs your beautiful new animal shelter that you were kind enough to build for us. Thank you specifically for your efforts, Commissioner Ross. This is our executive director, Bill Coleman. I'm here this morning to speak to you in support of the proposed joint trap, neuter, and release program between the Outer Banks SPCA and Dare County. I personally can attest to the success and efficiency of trap, neuter, release programs in different neighborhoods in Dare County, thanks to the tireless efforts of people like Jan Reimer at Feline Hope and Debbie Martin with Friends of Felines, who have been trying to run a completely volunteer trap, neuter, release program in their own communities for decades and have done a lot of good. The ability for us to work together and offer this kind of a program in the magnitude of a county-wide program would truly be a game changer. It can change the face of the communities. It will eliminate nuisances in the communities. It will decrease the population of feral cats and actually improve the lives of the existing feral cats. It's my understanding from Commissioner Ross that some of you may have some questions about the program or how it operates. And as you were due to vote on that today, I understand. I wanted to make sure that I was here to help answer any questions you might have.
Well, thank you, Laura, for being here. And I'm going to ask the board if they have any, but I do have a couple of questions.
Would you rather wait till we get to that on the agenda?
Yeah, that's right. It is on the agenda. Let's do that.
Well,
since
It
we're
is
under
actually
public
not
comment.
on the agenda, but I
It will
saw.
be.
Yeah.
Well, I was explaining to them that if they stay for the entire meeting, it may be a long while before we get there. That's all. That's why I thought it would be okay if you asked a question now.
Yeah, maybe so. I'd hate to, let's do that. We'll break
We do
from the
that.
norm, because I don't want y'all to have to sit around all morning. Trap, neuter, and release. I have a couple of questions about that, and I understand the trap and the neuter. Why would we release them back?
Some of these cats can be, speaking from my personal experience, some of these cats can be socialized, there are feral cats. I take care of a small colony of feral cats on Hatteras Island. Some of these, I call them feral cats because they live outside. The ones to which I refer all come to their names. Most of them will let me touch them, pick them up, whatever. There are some that are truly feral cats. They're not a nuisance to anyone, but they would never be able to survive inside. The Outer Banks is kind of famous for its feral cats. The point is, if these cats are taken care of, if they're neutered so that there will not be more of them, if they're vaccinated for rabies, they do not create any nuisance to the community. They do not provide any harm. They become what the communities consider a nuisance when their population explodes exponentially, which is the situation that we're now facing. I think a lot of the TNR programs hit a little glitch because of COVID, and some of the facilities that were allowing them to operate for the neutering program did not allow them to do so, and we're seeing the results of that now to a lot of effect. So a trap, neuter, and release program works really well because the cats that are then re-released back to where they were, they're assured to be healthy. There normally are these nonprofits that do this also ensure that they are cared for on a regular basis. And you don't have males fighting with each other. You don't have mother cats looking to break into a place to have their kittens. They just live their own lives in peace, and that no longer any kind of confrontation or danger to the community.
Why would we not?
Okay, may I jump in?
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
What happens if you take the cats out and you don't return them, other cats move in. So this is a way to curtail their population because they will possess that area and they'll be there. And what we really didn't say up front is there are thousands of feral cats. They're behind every grocery store. They're behind restaurants. They're in neighborhoods, and it really is a problem that's about to explode if we aren't doing that. Secondly, we have over 100 kittens in the shelter right now. We have well over 100 cats. If I take them, we can't do anything with them. We don't have enough people coming to adopt cats to do
All right,
anything
that
other.
was my next question. I watch a lot of Rocky Mountain vet, Mr. Jeff. He goes out with his crew and spends all day long neutering 200 cats. And then he takes them in his shelter, and then he adopts them out. And that you've answered my question as to why you're not, I would think, you said some of them you can, some of them
Some
you
you
can't.
can,
So
some
why wouldn't
cats
you
that
take
are
the ones that you can and try to adopt them out? But Bill's answered that question about the trouble with trying to adopt them out. You got 100 cats now and you're having difficulty doing that.
Well, it's a difference too, as well as like when we're talking age. If you're talking a trap, neuter and release program, if you trap kittens, kittens can be socialized, can be adopted, hence the 100+ kittens that we currently have in our shelter. Older cats who are living outdoors, who are feral, if you neuter and release them, they can live out their time there. They won't be, most of them will not be socially acceptable in a home they've been living their entire lives outdoors. Sadly, well, for numbers, I guess it's not sadly, but feral cats don't have a very long lifespan, quite frankly, just because they are living outdoors and they're susceptible to everything. Cars, wild animals, all manner of diseases, which is why we try and keep an eye on them. But this way, we ensure that the number that we have will be the worst number that we ever have, that we can, by neutering them, make sure that those numbers are not going to double. We will not have 300 kittens in our shelter next spring.
So what's going to prevent us, if we do this, what's going to keep us from not having to do this a year or two down the road?
Might have to.
Well,
We don't know.
I'd say we're always going to have to do it. But right now, we're trying to do with this project, do 1,000 cats. So we're going to take it out, and next spring, ideally, we won't see it is, but there'll always be wild cats out there, and we're going to always, that, as Laurie said, there's a couple of organizations in the county that are, that's their primary focus.
Are we willing to look at other counties that don't have quite as difficult issue with feral cats, that we could potentially work a deal with other counties that they could be adopted out at their SPCA's?
We will always look at any options for any adoptable feral cats. The point is, and this may well be a program that the Outer Banks SPCA will continue doing in connection with the locals. This particular proposal to effect during the second half of this year is truly what one would consider an emergency measure because of the explosion that is about to take place. And again, it affects tourism. We have currently the local nonprofits are getting calls every day from people that say, oh, there's a mother cat with 6 kittens under my house, and doing the best they can to go pick them up. That's what we're trying to avoid. We can stop this problem right now and curtail it. And then going forward, yes, sure, if there are kittens born, we'll take them in, we'll get them adopted. Other counties are experiencing the same problem. We believe that we have a solution, a very proactive solution to the problem that's taking place in our county right now. This is an emergency measure. We will continue to work with the local nonprofits that do this on a limited basis.
How many veterinarians are lined up to join with you in this effort?
I believe at least 4 or 5 right now.
4 or 5 local vets will be performing all of these surgeries at a very reduced cost in cooperation with.
Yeah, and all
this
that's
effort.
good, Rob. I mean, that's good, and I commend them for that. But my concern is we have to do this every year and spend these kind of funds every year.
No, sir. This is something that we want to do now as a stopgap measure. And we can continue to, the SPCA can continue to do this, working with the local nonprofits going forward, should that be deemed necessary on an ongoing basis.
And I appreciate what y'all want to do, and it certainly makes sense, but I'm not convinced that we're doing every single thing humanly possible, that once we trap, neuter, and release, I'm not hearing what I want to hear is the long term to try to cut these numbers down and coordinate working with other counties or whatever, or I mean, maybe we're not pushing the adoption program hard enough. Maybe you need to do a better job at selling that. I mean, I don't know.
If we,
Have you ever
got
tried
something.
to adopt a feral cat?
Let me finish.
Yeah, you finish, then I'd like to speak to you.
Yeah, and the floor is yours. As soon as I finish what I'm about to say. I haven't gotten really the answers that I'm looking for. And I don't know that my fellow commissioners have other questions, but, I'm not opposed to us spending this money and doing this. Don't get me wrong there. But I'm still not convinced that we're doing everything that we possibly can, that this is a Band-Aid. This is a Band-Aid, and I don't want a Band-Aid. I want something that's going to, for long term, it's going to work better.
may I reply? Or did,
Go ahead, Lori.
just from personal experience, when I first moved to the Outer Banks, I live in Salvo on Hatteras Island. There was a gentleman in my neighborhood, which is mainly a rental, who was staying at a rental property during the off-season, had 4 cats he was feeding. He had to move out by Easter and was so concerned about who was going to take care of those 4 cats. And I, of course, said, well, I live here. I'll take care of those 4 cats. That was Easter. By May, all 4 of those cats were looking pretty chunky, even the one he swore was male. And by June, I had 16 cats because there had been no trap, neuter, and release program. Now, I socialized most of them. I tried to get them adopted. I was a foster fail on 3 of them. They're living in my house. Had we had a trap, neuter, and release program, there would be 4 cats there. I have since worked with local organizations to trap, neuter, and release the cats in the area, and there is not a feral cat problem in that community on a small basis. What we are affecting to do is take that success and offer it to all of Dare County. I mean, right now, when you can say there are thousands of feral cats out there, if we do not initiate this program, there can be 4,000 cats out there within a few months. Any cat that you neuter is a cat that's not going to reproduce. Any male cats that you neuter, there's 100 kittens that will not be out there next year. This is not a Band-Aid. This is a solution.
Okay, well, don't get me wrong. I'm not opposed to what you want to do, and I'll support it. But it shouldn't have gotten to this point. Y'all known we've had a feral cat issue for years, because this board has dealt with that on Hatteras Island a number of years ago. So the SPCA should not have let it get to this point where you're just now dealing with it. You should have been dealing with this years ago. Jim, I'll yield to you. You had a question.
I don't have a question. I just have a couple statements. One of the big problems in our county is a lot of our citizens think it's perfectly fine to take a litter of kittens and go dump them somewhere. They dump them. I run the Pirates Cove Marina. They dump them at our marina all the time. I have one at my house that was dumped there. They end up drowning in the marina. There's a litter of kittens underneath our store right now that we're trying to catch. And when we do, you guys will be the recipients of them. The other thing is, I have a feral cat. We captured him, and we live in Mans Harbor, right on the edge of the wildlife refuge. We have tons of coyotes. We captured him. We took him in and got him neutered, and we had him, got his rabies shots and stuff, and we tried to bring him in our house. He was probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 to 2 years old. He was a full-grown cat when we got him. He would have nothing to do with it. We tried for like 6 months to integrate him into our family. Nothing to do with it. I'm really happy to say he's 14 years old now. He lives in our yard. He won't go, he's so old he can't get over the fence really very well. He lays around all day because it's so hot. We fed him the whole time, but he's a feral cat, and he's never reproduced since we caught him. And I personally, I think it's a good program. Yes, it's not perfect, but you're not going to get perfect things. There's citizens in our county that literally throw cats over the bridges into the water. One of the bridge inspectors got one out of the water and named it Bridger. It's still in existence.
It's just ones we know
Just
about.
this month, somebody threw one off the bridge at Pirates Cove, and the poor little kitten was clinging to one of the pylons, and luckily one of the boaters found him. this is an educational problem. In my heart, I do not understand how somebody can be so vicious and so heartless that they can do that, but they can't drive to your facility and give up the kitten. It is absolutely pathetic.
And this gives us the opportunity to, we're going to be using a lot of volunteers. We're going to be working with the existing volunteer organizations. I mean, our 1,000 was a bottom line. In the meantime, the cats that we'll be able to rescue, we'll be working with the communities, we'll be rescuing those kittens and bringing them in. We'll be doing our level best so that we don't have, so that when we meet at the end of this year, I'll be happy to come to another commissioners meeting next year and tell you that this isn't the case anymore, to report on the progress that we've made. This is, no, we will not be coming back to you each year to ask for this kind of money for this program. I think it's a program that will be successful enough that we'll be able to get public support for and run on our own. But for this type of blitzkrieg issue that we're trying to do right now, to do at least 1,000 cats by the end of 2022, we're asking for a joint program with Dare County to effect that change.
Commissioner Ross, I think you had something you wanted to say?
No, they've spoken.
I do.
Between
I do when you have
Jim
Vice
and
Chair.
Laura.
Yeah, I have a question for you. Just curious. How do thousands of cats, feral cats, sustain themselves? How do they, does that number get enough food to sustain themselves?
I cannot speak to civilization up here. I live on Hatteras Island. Most of the feral cat populations are, I could tell you where most of them was, people who live there. They do have caretakers that once they've been trapped, neutered, and released, there will be someone who feeds that colony and takes care of them, makes sure that they are all right. Some people do it like on their own property. Some people know that X number of cats live in this vacant area here, and they are provided for. Those local nonprofits that we talked about specifically care for a lot of cats.
But they live behind the restaurants and behind the grocery stores for a reason. That's where they're getting food.
Commissioner Paved?
So I'm like Jim, I've got a big, gigantic gray male cat that lives on Poor Ridge Road. You know what I'm talking about, 'cause it lives by our house. This cat roams the ridge, you know what I mean? He is the king cat, and he is fat. And I imagine he eats the stuff at the marsh, mice, snakes, whatever he gets his hands on Poor Ridge. He does very well for himself. In conversation, because Bob, I knew nothing about cats, I'm a dog guy. So I called Jan Reimer. I had a long conversation with her. Lynn Jones, who's another cat lady, and they kind of informed me. They said, I've told them about my cat. They said, well, that cat runs that ridge. He is also impregnating all the rest of the female cats on that ridge, which they reproduce. We bring him in, we take care of him, we bring him back to your house. He can do what he does best, which is get rid of the rodents and all that stuff. I've never fed that cat nothing, but he's fat. So that's kind of how this system works inadvertently. I can see that I want to give it a chance, see what happens to it. But they do take care of themselves. I also have a restaurant, and we've had feral cats there. The unfortunate thing, we also have coyotes, and we also have other things down there which takes care of some things like that in a bad way, but that's nature and what it is. So, but I'm going to get those guys to come trap my big gray cat and get them to bring him back. So we can take care of
You'll
it.
respond to prime rib.
Commissioner County?
Yeah. Thank you guys for everything you're doing. I want you to weigh in on a couple of things. You know, with you and I, Laurie, experience being down in Hatters, there's a couple of people that, for lack of a better word, they're gonna express their love for cats the way they do it themselves. There's a couple of rogue people down there. That's just the way I see it. We get emails from some of them. How would you incorporate somebody who's determined that their way is best to bring them into the fold and get their support for something like this? Am I overanalyzing it, or?
You're talking about people who are against TNR, or?
I'm
or-
talking about people who, it's their life's missions to take care of the cats, and they don't want to hear. I've had talks with them, and they're not going to listen. They're not going to listen to reason.
We've already convinced, I think Debbie Martin's done a great job on Hatteras Island of pitching the TNR program. And I think there are like a lot of, like if someone has a cat on their property per se, that if there's a colony there, if you trap them, if they don't own their cat, they're not going to complain when it comes back and it's been vaccinated for rabies and has been neutered. If you have their personal cat, if they have a personal cat that stays indoors that has 30 kittens, for that we have no control. They're going to bring them to the shelter when they can't get them adopted. But we have not had a lot of pushback from a lot of people on the island. A lot of the outdoor cats, they may say that's my cat, but the cat lives in a yard on the like a half a mile down the street. And once you trap, neuter, and release those cats, your problem is solved. They get their cats back, but they're in much better physical condition.
The reason I bring this up is that one has been seen, I mean, there's been threats back and forth with the restaurant owner. This couple is out 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and they're doing it their way, and they don't want to be told to be part of a program, as I see it, like this. So I'm hoping these guys can be addressed. Another one, being in the real estate business, I'm in hundreds of houses every week down there, and guests are complaining all the time. You know, my house, I didn't know, you should have told me about this stampede of cats I got around here. So I'm hoping that that will take care of it as well. But I'm just concerned about some rogue people who are going to be determined to do it their way, and they don't want any kind of authority, the SPCA or the good folks of the world like yourself, telling them what to do.
That's why we have law enforcement, Danny. If they come out and attempt to interfere with the appropriate organization or staff, then the sheriff's department will be contacted. I know what you're talking about, and that's not going to be allowed.
Okay, well, yeah, fortunately, I mean, there's always law enforcement issues. I mean, they can only do what they can with the resources that they have. But since this is just less than 5 people, I think, that are determined to do it their way, regardless, they can be controlled. Second thing is, and please don't laugh, you might find this humorous, but we got 4 million visitors down here. Come to Hatteras, take home a cat. You know? Just,
Danny, you've got to listen to what they're telling you. You can't just pick up a feral cat and say, oh,
when
nice
they've been
kitty.
neutered, yeah, I'll support this program.
Guys, it doesn't work
It
that
don't
way.
work.
It just doesn't work.
Well, I'm seeing it. I'm seeing people take home cats. They might not be fully, the cats around my house, they ain't gonna get in the car. You get, put a cat unrestrained in.
I didn't mean to take up so much
No,
of
no,
your
you're
time.
fine, and this is good discussion. Listen, once again, I'm gonna support this, but we all bring up some very valid points that we're concerned with, just like, I didn't bring it up, but I wanted to, but Danny's already broached it, so I'll say it. I mean, we've had people come down and that own cottages, and they hadn't been here in a while, and somebody on the island is feeding the cats underneath of their cottage, you know, when the owner of the property comes here and says, man, what's going on? You know, and lo and behold, somebody who's feeding those cats, that's, as Danny mentioned, don't want to play by the rules, is using somebody's property to feed feral cats. And if I was the property owner, I'd be pretty daggone uptight about it. And so, you know, I'm hoping that this program will certainly help with that situation.
Mr. Chairman, there's another speaker to this who's going to come next. Her name, Linda. Would you come up and address this potentially about the more permanent nature of the solution?
My name is Linda Ledwith, and I live in Nags Head. I've been involved in cat rescue for over 20 years. I've had a position on a board with a Boston-based rescue organization, and I've done trapping, foster care, fundraising, and I'm very familiar with all the issues that are posed to a community when there is an excess feral cat population. I've rescued many kittens and cats right in my neighborhood in the last few years, and I've noticed an uptick in the number as well as information I see on a daily basis with social media on the Outer Banks. I also live in a residential community, so this is not like I have a house next to a fish house. I am very concerned as a rescuer that this problem is gotten out of control. I try to make a small dent. I have not, since I moved here, affiliated myself with a group because for 20 years in Boston, I rescued and did so much stuff that by the time I got down here, quite frankly, I needed a break. But I know how to trap and I know how to use resources, and so I kind of operate on my own. But I work very closely with a friend and veterinarian here on the beach, and we have discussed how we've noticed an uptick. And part of this could be COVID, you know, that people weren't able to get into veterinarian facilities that easy, and so the spay and neuter dramatically went down. But I can answer a couple of your questions as to why you would return an animal and why you wouldn't transport ferals to other counties. Cats are very territorial, and as Bill said, nature doesn't like a void. If you take something out, it's gonna fill back in. So you're better off fixing the cat population and getting it under control because it will keep vermin away. They socialize well in the neighborhood. They're healthy. If they get a vaccination, rabies shot, 1 round of FCRCP, they're good, and they are remarkably more healthy looking. I came from an area in Boston where we were completely overrun with cats. We had a very aggressive TNR program put in place, which includes a podcast that is now listened to worldwide. And we have had, in some instances in Boston, no kittens except for certain times of the year to even be adopted. And they've actually reached out to communities down south to bring them up there. That's how it has gotten so well under control. So I think if you put a successful TNR program in place, I think in this case, I agree with what she mentioned. This is an emergency. I would look at this as, let's get the population under control. But to your point, and to a couple other folks' points here, I think there are other things that can be done so that you're not looking for these funds on a regular basis. The community is a very caring community for animals. You see it with all the Facebook posts. Everyone on those posts are very compassionate to animals, but I think it's not the person's natural ability to know where to go when they see a colony behind a restaurant or a dumpster or whatever. They need help, they need assistance, and they need education. I think the shelter could be far more informative with the community than what it is. I think they could have semi-annual, quarterly educational forums to just educate the community. This is a dynamic, popular place for people to come. It's a great place to live. We should be very proud of having a great animal facility and program here. And I also think that with adoptions, we did this in Boston. I worked with a rescue group. We did not adopt a cat out unless it was spayed, neutered, and vaccinated. You don't have kitten paloozas and hand out cats for $1 and think there's a responsibility there with the people that are taking them. If you don't have a value, nobody's going to treat it like a value. So you have to do a multidisciplinary approach to this to make it work. But the first place to start right now is to knock this population down. When you see dead cats in the road, you have 100 cats in a shelter, people are throwing them off bridges because they have no care in the world about anything, that is a problem. And so the problem has to be addressed, and I think the first place to start is to go with TNR, and then after that, I think it's a matter of fine-tuning it. And there's plenty of people here that know enough to be able to put that in place. It's a matter of somebody being able to lead that and get it, you know, off the ground. But I mean, that's my personal opinion. I have right now 4 kittens in my kitchen, in my living room, 2 male cats that I've added to my little shelter I have, and I have a trap set right now for a female that had the 4 kittens under the pool at the Nags Head Golf Links. So this is not a crazy problem that's happening. This is happening in residential areas. So
Thank you for your time. Your information is very vital and very helpful for us, and I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
So, we'll address this under Commissioner Ross's business. I hate that you have to wait that long, but thank you for your time, Lori, and your explanation, and very much appreciate it.
Last aside, just to clear up any confusion, the shelter does not allow adoptions. Any animal that's adopted through the shelter has been spayed, neutered.
Right,
I
right.
wasn't sure if that was, I didn't know, but that's just a suggestion.
Right.
That we did. And the other thing is, you know, a statistic to just be aware of, one unspayed female in 5 years is responsible for 12,000 kittens.
Woo! Wow.
So that just gives you an idea of.
The multiplying factor is the danger.
Yeah,
That's why we
absolutely.
want to try and nip
Like
it and
rabbits.
shut it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank y'all so much.
Yeah, thanks,
And Like I
ladies.
say,
Thank
we'll,
Yeah,
you
thank
all.
you.
we'll address this under Commissioner Ross's agenda.
May we do a 5-minute break, Mr. Chair?
Sure. Yeah. Let's finish public comment.
Yes.
If you don't mind.
That's everybody that I have signed up. Would anyone else like to speak at public comment? With that said, we close public comment, and Mr. Chairman, we go to item 5 on the agenda.
We're going to break for 5 minutes, if you don't mind, County Manager.
Thank you, sir.
I'm going to call the Dare County Board of Commissioners meeting back to order and turn it over to the county manager, Bobby Allen.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. That brings us to item 5 on our agenda, and this is the Camp Emmanuel Amendment to SUP 3-209 to add a Family Life Center building to the existing group development. Noah will take us through this. I will tell you that everyone who's going to speak in just a minute has been sworn, and so that will be the evidence before you as we talk about this amendment.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners.
Noah?
Liberty Christian Fellowship has submitted a special use permit application to amend their existing special use permit 3 of 2009 to allow for an addition of a new building to the existing group development. The original special use permit was for the construction of 8 cabins, 2 bathhouses, and the associated recreational amenities used by the church for the purpose of a summer camp. The applicant is seeking the amendment to build a new 15,000 square foot Family Life Center that will be used by the church and the summer camp attendees. The building will be 2 stories and include a gymnasium, dining hall and kitchen, office spaces, classrooms, and restrooms. The parcel is over 600,000 square feet, and with the existing improvements on site and the new proposed building, the group development will still be below the 30% lot coverage limitations for the R2B zoning district and group development ordinance. There is an existing gravel parking lot on the parcel that is used by the camp and is overflow parking for the church. This parking lot will be adjacent to the new constructed building and will serve for parking for the building and the camp. The parking lot has 47 spaces and is shown on the site plan and is an adequate amount for the proposed use. The building will be accessed from the existing gravel drive that is used to access the camp, and there will be another driveway cut on Williams Drive that will be used as a service loading and unloading area for the new building. A state low-density stormwater permit will be required for the project. The site will utilize an existing pond and wooded area on the parcel for stormwater containment and infiltration. The disturbance on site is less than an acre, so a state erosion control permit will not be required. The building will be constructed on a slab-on grade. First floor elevation will be at 9 feet, meeting requirements of the flood development ordinance. The developer intends to fire sprinkler the entire structure. A copy of the site plan has been provided to the county fire marshal for his review. His comments are attached to the memo. The project engineer and staff from the church actually met on site with Steve Kovacs, the Dare County Fire Marshal, and the site plan that is attached with this memo reflects his comments and requests. The proposal was reviewed by the planning board at their July meeting. The board found that the amendment to the SUP and the conditions were reasonable and appropriate. The property has been posted, and we sent letters to the adjoiners, and we have not received any feedback whatsoever. And John DeLucia, the project engineer, is here to speak on its behalf.
Come on up, John.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm John DeLucia from Albemarle & Associates. Before I make any comments to Noah's comments to you, Noah did an excellent job explaining what we are intending to build out there. I'd like to introduce you to Scott Hobbs, who's our pastor at Liberty, and he'd like to say a few things, and then I'll answer any questions.
Absolutely. Come on up, Pastor. Welcome this morning.
Good morning to you all. I just really just want to take the opportunity to thank you for your consideration of this project, this amendment. That's been a long-term vision for our fellowship for over 30 years. Liberty began as a rock church in 1974, became Liberty in about 1981. But for over 30 years, they've had this heart for the local community and children and families to have a place where lives could be impacted. They could make an investment in the community, a safe place for kids to come. And the camp began to be developed. And back in 2005 or so, when my dad became pastor down at Liberty, they really began to heavily invest in the site and began the cabins project, which you guys have supported with us. And we have been seeing several hundred kids every summer between programs we run and other churches in the area and other folks come to use the property. Come through there, and so we're just in a time and a season where a commercial kitchen and dining space, as well as recreational space and meeting space, is a next step for us to be able to not only be part of the mission that we feel like we have as a church, but really as an investment in the community. And we're just excited about the opportunities for the folks in our Collington area, but also the broader Outer Banks in terms of outreach programs, things where we've been able to do these large Thanksgiving meals for folks that don't have anywhere to go, feeding several thousand folks a year for the last number of years pre-COVID. Just opportunities to partner with other organizations and churches locally too. And so we're just excited about the project and have just really appreciated the work that y'all have done and the support you've been for us as we do this together out here in our Outer Banks community. So I just want to take the opportunity on the behalf of the staff and the elders to thank you all for that, and excited about the things to come. So appreciate that.
Thank you, Pastor.
Chairman, while I've got him up there, I've
Yeah.
got a couple questions he can
Yeah, go
answer
ahead.
now. Sure.
Absolutely, Bob.
This is an evidentiary proceeding, so everybody's under oath, so I just need to clean up the record. You consent to the information and the presentation that the planning director made earlier, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you consent to the entry of your file into the record as evidence in this matter?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then finally, you consent to the proposed amended SUP as presented today as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's all that I have. Thank you.
Okay, yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, County Manager. John, come on back up. Let us pick on you.
This is an exciting project. It's a nice project. It's been planned for a long time. And we want to move quite quickly on getting this constructed. So with that said, I'll just.
It's what a nice looking facility. I bet you if I was a betting man, I bet Dave Stormont had something to do with it. And I tell you what, you got the right person, because nobody does any better than he does. But a really nice looking facility. So I'm going to just, unless the rest of the board has any questions for you, John, I'm going to ask what the pleasure of the board is.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Commissioner Bateman.
I move to amend the SUP 2009 Associates site plan for the addition of a building and existing group development be approved.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. It's been made by Commissioner Bateman, and I believe the Vice Chairman's made a second to that. And the floor is open for discussion once again.
I got a quick one, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
As somebody lives on the lower end of the county, we always marvel at when kids make opportunities for themselves. There's so many distractions here of an unhealthy nature. And this is the kind of thing that's going to make opportunities for kids. So from a parent standpoint, and that it is incorporated, when you look at what the ARC's doing over there as well, this is going to be something that's going to further not just belong to Liberty and the central part of the beach, but it's going to be the Outer Banks from Sanderling Line all the way down to Hatteras Inlet. I'll take it. You got my support.
Thank you, Commissioner Couch. Anyone else? Commissioner Tobin?
I'd just like to say thank you. This is exactly the kind of development that we need for our kids. And, like Danny said, kids have paths that they have to choose, and so many paths can take them in the wrong direction, as Urban can attest to. And it's going to be really, really, really good for them, and thanks again.
All right, anyone else? With that said, then those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you.
Great work, guys.
Thank you.
When will we expect to see groundbreaking?
Between now and the end of November, because the steel arrives in November.
Gotcha.
And when will I be able to play hoops?
30 years ago. Sorry, it just slipped out. I didn't mean that.
Probably a year. It'll take us a year.
Yeah,
Sure.
To finish the building as well.
Gotcha.
Well,
Excellent.
Dave, I understand that steel was probably the biggest issue, but if you can get it in November, that's pretty daggone good, isn't it?
We've been working on it for 4 months.
Yeah, wow.
When you lay out the floor inside, if you lay out some pickleball lanes, I guarantee you, you'll get.
Oh, my gosh.
Great, nice-looking facility, Dave, really, really
And
nice.
thanks for being patient.
Yeah. Yeah. Good work, guys. Good work. This is good stuff. All right. Thank y'all. County Manager?
Yes, sir.
Chairman, that brings us to item 6 on the agenda. This is a proposal for the use of the opioid settlement funds, and Dr. Davies from our health department is here to make that presentation to you.
Thank you, Sheila.
You're welcome. Good morning again. Perfect. Thank you. Let me grab the slides. Okay, so what I'm here this morning is to share a proposal. This, just for your information, has been vetted with several stakeholder groups in the community. Specifically, the date on here says June because throughout the summer we've been presenting this information to get feedback from various parties that currently do substance abuse work in our community. Specifically, we've presented to the Healthy Carolinians of the Outer Banks Executive Committee, the Breaking Through Task Force, and most recently the Saving Lives Task Force. So the opioid settlement funding, oops, hold on. You got it. Okay, thank you. You all are well aware, but in case anyone that's listening isn't up to speed as you are, this is a pretty monumental litigation initiative that was championed by Attorney General Josh Stein and has been in the works for a while. It's to address, or at least attempt to address, a part of just the horrific epidemic related to opioid destruction and what's happened with the pharmaceutical companies and the excess opioids that are out there, and just how they have really wrecked lives and communities. We'll move to the next slide. Historic agreement was reached back in July of 2021. It was a $26 billion agreement with manufacturers and distributors of opioids, specifically McKesson, Cardinal Health, AmerisourceBergen, and Johnson & Johnson. In addition to financial reward or financial allocations that came out of that settlement, additionally, requirements and industry changes about how opioids are prescribed and distributed are part of that as well. Specifically in North Carolina, of the $26 billion, we can go to the next slide, $750 million is allocated to the state. This goes through Health and Human Services and then is distributed to local governments, 85% of that to local governments and 15% to the state of North Carolina. There is a memorandum of agreement or a contract that's in place with the recipients of these funds. The 100 counties are receiving the funds, as well as 17 municipalities. These are the entities that signed on to the litigation settlement and expressed a desire and interest to try to have some restitution for these communities. Under the North Carolina Memorandum of Agreement, there's very specific criteria to spend the money that's allocated to the communities. As Dave and I have been working in communication, as you identify something that you want to do in a community, you have to make sure it matches with one of the exhibits that part of the Memorandum of Agreement, and documentation of that when you submit your report to the state, they have to align with that. So as we have worked with our community partners to create this proposal, what you see in here certainly matches an exhibit that's part of the Memorandum of Agreement. The three big pockets, and it's pretty all-encompassing where the money can be spent, is treatment, recovery support, and harm reduction. Specifically in Dare County, of the state's allocation, $3,433,424 is allocated to Dare County, paid out, though, over 18 years. So while this seems like initially a significant amount of money, this next slide shows the distribution over the next 18 years. I'm sorry, it's a little hard to see maybe you can see it better from your seats, but we have received our first allocation of $131,000. We are anticipating another allocation of $297,000, which would be the funds for the fiscal year that we're currently operating in. As you see further down the payout schedule, though, kind of normalizes around $151,000 in years 2032 to 2038. So what we anticipate is coming before you each year after continuing to get stakeholder input, just as we're before you today, to make a recommendation. So specifically what we're recommending today, we can move to the next slide, is how to utilize the funds for the current fiscal year. And then we would come back to you at the start of the next fiscal year. So specifically, for this current fiscal year, the top two items have actually already been committed, but they're part of this overall calculation. These funds were committed when we looked at the current fiscal year budget. One is the overdose response coordinator. That position's housed in Health and Human Services, and this is to continue a position that was originally grant funded. The second is a new position. This is a probation officer that would be designated for recovery court. This person would handle the logistics right now that are a bit fragmented in supporting individuals going through recovery court with all the requirements that they have to meet and the coordination that's involved in ensuring or supporting their success. Recovery court has been a really successful program in Dare County, started a few years ago with a pretty skeleton crew, so this would provide designated support for that program. The other items, again, like I said, mentioned, have been vetted at different stakeholder groups. The $30,000 for naloxone community distribution. Currently, naloxone is given to, police departments, fire departments, community organizations. The community care clinic helps with distribution as well. A lot of the funding that has supported this work has come through grant funds through the Public Health Division. Some of those grants will be ending soon, so this would enable us to continue to provide the same level of naloxone distribution in our community that we have been doing. The $12,000 for fentanyl testing strips of more recent is the offering of these fentanyl testing strips, so individuals can test the drugs that either they're using or they have gotten to see if it's laced with fentanyl. Sadly, a number of our overdoses resulting in deaths in Dare County over the past couple of years have occurred where individuals took a substance that they had no idea was laced with fentanyl, and it's such a small amount that can be lethal. We'd like to make these testing strips widely available in our community.
Sheila.
Yes.
Can I interrupt you?
Absolutely.
How would that fentanyl testing strip be disseminated in the community? How would that happen? Say I take drugs. Are you telling me that I would get one of these strips and I'd test it before I took the drug? And a drug addict's going to do that?
I don't know if they are, to be quite frankly. I mean, I don't know. What we're hoping is to tie this with the next item, the Fentanyl Kills Mass Public Awareness Campaign, to let individuals know, first off, to do more education about how deadly fentanyl is. I recently was in Phoenix, and they're doing something like this, and I couldn't turn my head very far in any direction without seeing either a huge billboard or a bus going by or flyers that says, one pill can kill, or fentanyl kills. I mean, it was all, consistent branding. And I came back and talked with my colleagues at Public Health. I was like, we need to do more to get the message out. So combining that with educating people about the tools that are out there. I don't know that a habitual user would have any interest in a fentanyl testing strip. Though I hope, that some of individuals that are, and I think back to some of the fatal overdoses recently, these were not necessarily habitual users. These are these are individuals who got together for a party or an event and, made a a very bad decision that ended up being lethal. And so if that can help in those instances, maybe, as you well know, combating this epidemic is there's not a magic answer. And so where we can just try to build up our toolbox and put more resources in the community is what we're looking at trying to do.
I also had a question or two, since you've sort of opened up this line.
Sure.
The settlement is massive. I saw companies listed, Johnson & Johnson, Cardinal Health, others, supposedly very respected companies in the medical products distribution. Are they part of the distribution of fentanyl, Cardinal and J&J?
A lot of the fentanyl that you're seeing that's leading to the overdoses and fatalities is not, it's home manufactured.
So people in this country, like here in North Carolina, you can make fentanyl in your basement here.
Or you have channels to buy it from outside sources or from
That's
other
where I'm going,
countries.
Sheila. Where's the fentanyl coming from? Anybody cook it?
Mexico.
I'm sorry, say that.
China and Mexico.
China and Mexico.
You're ordering it in, you're
So
getting
we're
it off the
putting
internet.
millions into billboards and naloxone kits. I'm frustrated and angry here, guys, is where I'm going. I'm just, spoiler alert. Where does it come from? Where is the source of this poison? Where or how many are dying? Because I see news stories about, I'm going to say, the last I saw was 100,000 in the last year, 100,000 deaths in our country, and virtually all of them were traced to fentanyl, one of the most powerful synthetic opioids, and it's deadly. And I continue to be frustrated because I look at Roxana and the tireless efforts that she and Commissioner Bateman, Vice Chair Bateman, Overman, put in on the Saving Lives Task Force. And I feel like, I'm calming down here, I feel like we have a broken pipe in the house and we are devoting all of our resources to buckets on the floor, and we're bailing out the buckets as it floods the living room. Nobody has said, hey, Rob, let's go up and shut off that pipe, and that will stop the leak. There seems to be no, and again, I'm looking, Sheila, because this is a big part of your life, your career, the things that you do for our community. It has to be coming from somewhere. It's not falling from the sky, and nobody in Wanchese is cooking fentanyl in their basement. Why hasn't tens or hundreds of millions of dollars been devoted to shutting off the supply? Because once again, Commissioner Bateman, it's coming from where? Mexico and China. And there's, I don't know, is there an appetite to stop it? Is there a nationwide commitment? A stop it now? The answer is no.
Actually, the DEA is very strong on what's coming across our borders right now. And they've actually increased their enforcement issues there.
Yeah, but they can't keep up.
They're not gonna be able to keep up, no.
Yeah,
I just wanna say, if you're saying nothing's being done, something is being done.
I'm leading to, why hasn't this received the kind of effort that the initial opioid movement that led to this settlement that said, no more. We're going to stop the not naloxone, but oxycodone and Oxycontin and the other myriad of opioids that were flooding the market, and people were just addicted to it and sick, and it led to the litigation, it led to massive publicity. And I'm looking now, see, saying, is Oxycontin the thing that's the most concerning to you? Is that on the top of your list today, Oxycontin? No,
I mean, it's
not.
still an issue.
It's
without
still
a
an
doubt.
issue.
But fentanyl has taken over.
Fentanyl's taken over. So I'm looking for the same sort of national mobilization to say, not one more day, not one more step, this is going to be stopped. We're going to stop it before it comes in, because the guys that you're referring to probably are the best in the world. Are they given the unlimited resources to stop it so that we don't have more? Well, we need to put up billboards. It's very upsetting to me, obviously, because it breaks my heart. Irv and I have had many discussions about this topic, and he's been kind enough to share a lot of his insights and experience, and I get furious. I feel like, again, I'm buying you extra buckets and putting Roxana down in the main living room to bail water while the pipe is continuing to gush upstairs and nobody's gone up to shut off the pipe.
And I wish I could provide comfort that that's not the case.
No, it's open. I look at 2 million people come across and 900,000, we don't know. Are any of them carrying any fentanyl? I don't know.
A bunch of them.
Oh, how about that? That's what's
Sheila,
driving me
I've
crazy.
got a question for you. I heard on the news just within the past 2 days about a new drug that is more of an opioid than fentanyl, that is much more deadly than fentanyl. Have you heard anything about that?
No.
It's
You don't
coming
remember the
acro-
name?
I don't know. It's coming across the border.
Same
And
trafficking.
they've confiscated it, and they're saying it's much deadlier than fentanyl. So we may be open up to a whole new issue.
And we
I hate to put rain on
Right.
your parade, but
The sad.
No, and if you think of, though, the nature of addiction and drug abuse, I mean, yeah, it's very cyclical as far as what's the next thing, and it is constantly evolving. And, to Commissioner Ross's point, a few years ago, fentanyl was not on the radar.
No,
And
it
then
wasn't on the radar. It was all that oxy this and oxy that. And there seemed to be, again, a very effective concerted effort to bring that oxy madness under control, to penalize the parties and the companies responsible for the spread, the distribution, there's a million pills everywhere. Because I know I hear
And
people today.
I think one of the big differences with
Thank you, Jim. That's true. It was
One of the
much
big
easier.
differences with that situation and this situation is the medical industry's, proliferation of this epidemic related to that particular opioid, whereas this is a trafficking, bringing in,
Right.
it's not a homegrown.
There are no doctors writing a prescription for 40 fentanyl pills. That doesn't happen. These are microscopic amounts that can be deadly. So it's all coming in illegally. It's being distributed and sold illegally, and it's not being shut off where the water is flooding. That's my point of frustration and why we have not seen a rising up on a national level of literally every public health official like yourself or like Roxana or like Vice Chair Overman across this nation saying, well, let me coin a phrase, enough is enough, okay? Enough is enough. It's got to stop. But that hasn't happened. We continue day in and day out.
And to make it even more insidious, Rob, just 2 weeks ago on a morning news, I saw where they had found that fentanyl was being introduced into various types of candies, gummy type
Yes,
candies.
I saw the same
into,
story, sir.
Into
Yes.
lollipops, and you know where that's headed. That's headed right to kids. And the question at one time was, well, why does somebody want to kill off your customers? Well, they're kill them off on this end and backfill it on this end. So it's as I said, it's very insidious, and totally agree with you on it needing to be shut off, and there's just no concerted effort seemingly to do that. They're totally outnumbered. They got pharmaceutical-looking pills, and Percocet, that's the only one I can think of, and there's probably several that fall into this category, that look better than the ones that the pharmaceutical companies put out. And they're laced, if you will, or maybe wholly of fentanyl. They certainly got a big percentage of fentanyl in them. And it is, to say that it's out of hand in just a few years is a gross understatement. I mean, it truly is.
Sad fact of the matter is, Commissioner Ross, it'll continue unless our federal legislators put a stop to it.
Exactly.
And take control over it.
That's correct, sir. That was my point.
And by the way, you used a good word, the proper word for fentanyl. fentanyl is not a drug. Fentanyl is poison.
Yep.
And that's how that the sellers of this stuff ought to be treated, and in case of what we call an overdose death is actually a poisoning, and that's the way it ought to be treated. It's basically murder with poison.
Well, the number that I saw, and I'm looking at Sheila now to confirm that 100,000 or 100,000 plus deaths traceable for fentanyl, am I accurate for saying that? Am I being inflammatory and
I
hyperbolic?
don't think so, but I don't have that statistic in front of me, so but I
Roxana,
can
do you have
easily
any
get my finger.
Any comment on that? No? Okay.
The CDC has put that number out there, I believe. I saw that.
So I'm in the neighborhood at 100,000. That's all I was looking for, a confirmation. 100,000 deaths. When's the last time we had an issue that killed 100,000 Americans and we kind of said, well, let's do what we can, but, you know, we would be very frustrated, as you can tell. Sorry.
I got a couple of questions. With the fentanyl testing strips, like you said, for parties and stuff like that, would be very, very advantageous to have that. One of the things that adds from that down to the mass public awareness campaign, there have actually been murder charges brought up from people who have had these parties, and they're getting second-degree murder charges for having these parties, drug parties. And somebody introduced some drugs that was traced with fentanyl. So they had no idea, but yet they're being charged with a second-degree murder. So that would also go into the mass public awareness campaign, that this could happen to you if you don't have these. Also, with the mass public awareness campaign, what exactly is that going to curtail? You were talking about billboards and stuff like that. We don't have any billboards in Dare County, so.
Right, so it's lots of different avenues, and also understanding there's going to be different target audiences with common branding is the vision with this. But we've looked at, certainly social media, radio ads, TV ads, movie theaters. We've talked about using that space. So lots of different mediums and message and ways to get that messaging out. The first step would be working with the committee on the branding and the messaging, noting there's different target audiences, but how do you have a comprehensive theme? So it's a consistent message, kind of like what was out in Phoenix, and understanding some of it's going to be grassroots, some of it's going to be flyers. There's a toolkit that the federal government does have, but printing on napkins, beverage napkins, to put them in the bars and restaurants possibly. And so lots and lots of different ways, and you'll need to use all these different ways to get the messaging out.
Right. So. Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure it wasn't going to be like, because this is money that was dedicated to Dare County.
Right.
And since we don't have billboards in Dare County, and you mentioned billboards, so I wanted to make sure we're not spending money and the other counties put billboards up.
Right. No, this would be local, all here in Dare County to get the messaging.
All right.
The other two items, and then certainly welcome additional questions. $125,000 set aside for community initiatives. This would be the process where other community agencies that are also working in this field of work could submit a mini grant application or request. These requests would go through the Saving Lives Task Force as the entity to vet those. And if they meet criteria and they prioritize that's an initiative that would support this work in Dare County, then they could award mini grants up to a total of $125,000. I think they're looking at maybe considering about 5. They want to have a substantial enough money that you could make an impact in the work that they're doing. And then also they would need to keep it manageable enough to provide the oversight that the funds are being spent the way that they are intended to be spent and meet with the criteria of the memorandum of agreement. And then the last amount, $25,000, in linkage to care, social determinants of health. Currently, a lot of this work is being done through the Justice Grant that comes through Public Health. That grant will end in January of 2023. These funds would help support people getting into treatment, sometimes paying the cost of initial treatment, transportation to treatment, visits. We help support folks going into the detention center and providing therapy sessions and support there. So it would basically, the funds would enable that work to continue. So these, again, were the recommendations after vetting this with a number of stakeholders. Understanding, yes, these are Band-Aids. There's not enough, the other things that have been mentioned in our meetings are the need for detox services, for treatment, residential treatment closer to home, but these funds would go nowhere near to touching that, and we've looked at feasibility studies in the past about the sustainability and the operations, and it's not a single county endeavor or initiative that can be supported in DARE.
In that regard, we had a very spirited conversation and very well-attended conversation when Sheila presented this at the Saving Lives Task Force. And there was one individual in particular who was adamant about the treatment centers, that we needed treatment center for detox and for recovery type treatment. And she just simply did not understand that we could take every dime that has been allocated, $3.4 million, and you couldn't even build a building to do treatment, much less staff it and have it as an ongoing, ongoing type of treatment center. To that effect, and having something reasonably close to us, there's getting ready to be a facility opening up in Greenville. I can't remember the number of beds. I want to say 100 maybe. And then there's one being built that's going to be ready in another 2 years. It's going to have 400 beds. So it's while it's not in our backyard, it's crossed the fence, and we can get people to Greenville. That's an hour and a half, and we can get folks to Greenville to get recovery if that's what they wish to have. So just to kind of add to that point that was discussed in great detail.
Mr. Chairman, to answer to Jim's question, that drug is called Zenies, it's Netazenies, and it's a synthetic opioid, and it's 20 times more powerful than fentanyl.
Scary.
Good Lord have mercy.
Yeah, it's the next wave.
Guys, my point is, nobody's making this in their basement
That's
in
right.
one cheese.
That's right.
And until there's a concerted commitment that we will stop it by the appropriate federal authority, that where it's coming in,
Right.
Wally, I'm sorry, sir, you're going to need more beds.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, you're right.
Yes, ma'am.
Either more beds or more graves.
So I think if no further questions, Dave, I'll turn to you. As far as procedurally, do we need anything?
If you'd also authorize the county manager to do the necessary budget amendments or amendment.
So then the money can be utilized for these purposes.
Right.
So move.
Okay.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor by the Vice Chairman, and it's been seconded by Commissioner Bateman. Any further discussion?
Just the last thing, Commissioner Overman and I have met about this a whole bunch of times, and what came of our meetings was to go to the user groups, to the people who are involved in this, and through the Saving Lives Task Force that sort of had stakeholders from all different parts of the county, all different issues, and get them to provide their input. And what you have in front of you is that input. And so what's being asked is that we move forward with that community input that you've received to go forward with these funds.
All right. Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thanks so much, Sheila, for this update.
See you tomorrow morning, Sheila.
Yes.
Chairman, item 7 on the agenda is a request to close a paved portion of Seagull Street in Rodanthe. And Noah's here. I'm going to give you the shorthand, and Noah can answer any questions. Seagull is a street as you go into Rodanthe that's to the left in between the houses and Highway 12. You may not have even known there was a street there. It's behind the dune.
Yeah, you can almost, I was looking at the map closely, Bobby. I almost don't know there's a street there.
Right. Those folks there want to remove that street, which will allow them some more room on their lot to move their houses back closer to Highway 12, which will then give them a longer lifespan.
So they will all be lifting and moving?
I say that. It will give them the possibility to do that. I can't tell you that they're all going to do it or not.
I believe they're in the packet. There's 13 affidavits from the
I read
property
them.
owners there where they're all in
I read 'em.
agreement with doing this, and they've all been in, it's from my understanding of talking to several of the homeowners and the HOA president, that the homeowners are all planning on moving their houses westward to prevent, potentially either damage or losing the house.
So this will give them the opportunity to at least extend their life a little longer, however long that is. All that's being asked of you today is to set a public hearing for September, and then we'll hear from everybody and decide what to do.
No, I've got a question. Has emergency services been contacted and asked about any of this? And I just look at it, I say, well, what if there's a fire in one of these houses and you have to bring, I don't know if there's
13 houses will have to install a new driveway.
They'll have 13 curb cuts that go to Highway 12.
Okay.
And actually, with the way Seagull Drive is now, you can't get a fire truck.
Yeah, you couldn't get a fire truck in there.
Yep, really the only other issue that we, in our discussions, came up with is you're now going to put 13 cuts in the dune for the ocean to overwash into that area of Highway 12. When I brought that up to Noah, he told me, well, it breaches at one end and the other, and it all goes around anyway, or after a couple of days, it breaches and it goes through anyway, and so you're really not getting a whole lot of protection there anyway. So.
And we met with CAMA on site, and CAMA was in agreement that this was the better alternative than having houses, on the beach, so.
I figured you had,
And this is part of NC 12 that's not gonna have any two-way traffic on it, except for what these houses are.
Right. It's north of the circle. So.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, what's being asked is to set a public hearing.
Yep, September 6th.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Motion to set a public hearing.
There's a motion on the floor by Commissioner.
Well, it's
House.
adopting a resolution.
Right, adopt the resolution, set a public hearing.
Okay.
For September 6th. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Couch and Commissioner Tobin. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Noah.
Thanks, Noah. Thank you, Noah. Next on the agenda is item 8. This is a proclamation for Child Support Awareness Month. With your permission, Mr. Chairman, I'll read the proclamation.
Yes, sir. Please do.
Whereas Dare County is recognizing August as Child Support Awareness Month and reaffirms its commitment to strengthening Dare County's families by providing child support services to improve the economic stability and well-being of children. And whereas in state fiscal year 2021-22, more than $2.5 million in child support was collected from parents of Dare County's children. And whereas there are nearly 763 child support orders in place working to ensure that more than 906 children receive financial support from their parents. And whereas Child Support Awareness Month salutes the diligent working parents who spend time with their child and who make regular child support payments to safeguard their children's future. And whereas strengthening individuals and families promotes the safety and well-being of children, provides stability, improves the lives of children, and provides opportunities for families to be able to enhance their children's futures. Whereas children who do not receive adequate financial and emotional support from their parents may experience greater difficulty in becoming healthy, happy, and productive citizens. And whereas many concerned and dedicated judges, district attorneys, clerks of courts, sheriffs, personnel, and child support professionals work to establish and enforce child support orders for Dare County children, one of our county's most vital resources. Now therefore be it resolved that the Dare County Board of Commissioners do hereby proclaim August 2022 as Child Support Awareness Month in Dare County and commend its observation to all citizens this the first day of August 2022.
Thank you, County Manager. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
It's been made by Commissioner Tobin, it's been seconded by Vice Chairman Overman. Any further discussion?
And just
Yes,
a
sir.
clarification, County Manager, the 906 children that receive financial support from the 763 orders, that's Dare County.
Correct.
That's 1 out of 5. There are, well, more than that. There are 5,000 students in our school system and another 1,000 or so under the age of 5. So approximately 1 out of every 6 kids is covered by a child support order.
Well, anytime two parents with children divorce, then there's a support arrangement that has to be made. A
No,
lot of them are made by court order. Even some of the ones at court order are amicable, they're not,
Yeah.
yeah.
I just am stunned by 1 out of 6. I didn't realize that statistic, guys. That's all I had. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Rob. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Item 9 is a resolution for Dare County to join the North Carolina Investment Pool, and Dave's going to tell you what that is.
Good morning, Dave.
Good morning. The background on this is about 2 years ago, there's one mutual fund that all local governments in North Carolina are authorized by the state treasurer to invest in. 2 years ago, they had to go through a registration change with the SEC. They no longer could invest in commercial paper, which affected their rates about 1/4 of 1 percentage point. In reaction to that, Wake and Buncombe counties created an investment pool. There is a North Carolina general statute that allows that. It's intended to create what we call an external investment pool versus an internal investment pool. Like we invest money for the airport authorities, Saving Lives Task Force, 2 or 3 others. So this is an external. There's a separate statute to do that. They also use a separate set of statutes to create an indenture of trust. Since that time, also joined, and these are just the ones that were willing to be a reference for the pool, so there's likely more, but it was Transylvania County, the North Carolina Eastern Municipal Power Association, and Mecklenburg County. I'm looking at asking you to join this, as since that change in commercial paper, it's pretty difficult to get commercial paper with a plus rating. We can buy paper that's either A1, P1, F1 rating. I'll usually try to get one that has a plus. Other places like these mutual funds and investment pools have first choice, and it's harder to find them for smaller units, local government like us. So I view this as opening up another alternative, so we don't have that commercial paper pressure. I have talked to 2 of the participants. They're very pleased with what's happened so far. And you can see they have a good list of what they've done. They've used PFM Asset Management, which is a company well-known out of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Ernst & Young does their audit, and then Parker Poe that we used did all the trust work and creation of all the documents. So what I need from you is, or my request to you, is to adopt the resolution that's included in the packet. And I will say, I realized this morning I've got to look at our investment policy. I might be back next meeting with a revision, maybe.
Okay. County Manager, you want to?
Do you really want me to read that?
Yeah.
Pretty dry, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to y'all. It's up to y'all.
No, I read it. It's pretty cut and dry.
Okay. All right, pleasure of the board.
Move to adopt.
This motion on the floor then by Commissioner House to adopt this resolution as presented.
Second.
It's been seconded by Commissioner Couch. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor then signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
All right, I am also the next item, which is a resolution to start the financing process for your EMS and Manio Youth Center projects. That's in the capital improvements plan. Cheryl is handing out what I emailed to you Friday, because what I'm doing today is ask you not to adopt the resolution. We had a meeting on Thursday with the staff of the state treasurer's office, and they've been, as far specific as they would go, was that they have members of the commission, meaning the local government commission, that don't want to do short-term construction draw programs like we've been planning to do for 2 years. I guess in a way it's understandable. Over the last 24 to 18 months, they've done some and seen the unit come back and say their initial approval was for 30 million, and the units come back and the final cost was 35 or 40 million when they sold the final bonds.
So inflation drove costs through the roof.
Right. I'll be honest and say we had a good discussion in that we pointed out that our estimates are very current. Just since the December estimate we got, Barnhill's added 12% to it, to the last set of numbers you approved. The architect's a little bit optimistic as to what we might see in construction cost over the next 6 to 12 months. But to be honest, it just didn't matter because members of the commission don't want to put these on the agenda anymore. Now, what it means for us is we'll go back and regroup. We've got Sally and I have a call with bond counsel this afternoon. Dustin and I have a meeting with Barnhill and Oakley Collier tomorrow. They've done some preliminary work on how we can group and time projects, which is what you've got in front of you, but it is very preliminary and very rough draft. What it really means for us is instead of having a construction loan and then 2 years later selling bonds, is we're going to have to sell bonds 3 times. There's a lot of cost to issuance that will duplicate. Every time you have a bond sale, you've got mainly bond counsel to pay each time, so it's going to increase our cost. But we'll work it out to, we may not end up with an extra bond sale because we have other things in the CIP. Right now, you've got Public Works sitting there in 2023. We can probably combine some of this if the timing and the cost work out. This sheet is color-coded by the very initial proposal we've gotten from Barnhill for timing of the projects. They want to look at a first phase, which would be about $36.3 million, which are the EMS priorities of the Kilova Hills project, the Southern Shore Station, and Dare Medflight, the hangar and crew quarters and offices. Then they've done a phase 2, which was Frisco and Mans Harbor, and I think a lot of that timing I'll confirm this tomorrow, but I think some of the timing is with the Frisco station to do the majority of the construction outside of hurricane season and outside of tourism season. And then that would leave Manio Youth Center, the Manio EMS station, and then we've got 2 projects that we haven't finalized yet that are still out there as possibilities that in the model I had showed as adding to that final bond issue in 2024, which were a possible station in Kitty Hawk and a station in Rodanthe. So those are still open items that we'll work on to see how it fits and everything. So this is just really a report. We're going to meet this week and regroup and do a new schedule. Likely will be on the local government commission agenda in their January meeting and to sell the bonds in the middle of the month and settle late January, or close it late January or early February.
Gotcha. Thank you, Dave.
I've got a question on it. What was the justification that the committee had in okaying Charlotte, I believe, to have a project and not us?
It's Charlotte. Sorry.
Were a lot of the members from
No,
Charlotte?
I mean, honestly, if you're a member of the Big Ten, you don't, you're allowed to do things differently.
$1 billion and some dollar budget, and so.
It was a
double
$500
A.
million construction loan for utilities, water, sewer. I mean,
We're a rural county, and while we've got a high bond rating and we do things that other counties follow, we still get lumped into the rural county category, and so we get fed with the same spoon.
That's a good way to
Oftentimes
put
with other rural counties who may not have a level of sophistication that we have, or do the things that we do.
And that's not recognized by our,
Well,
One
and
branch.
I'll be fair, it's not staff there.
I'm sorry?
It's not the staff at the.
It's not the staff?
No, it's not.
What is
I mean,
it?
It's the commission.
What's the commission?
It's
I'm
the local-
fishing for where's the meat here, Dave? Don't-
It's the local government commission.
The
You
local
should-
government commission? Where
you
do the
should
local
register on their
government commission
website.
people
They'll-
come from?
The state treasurer and.
China and Mexico.
Does he appoint them?
It's,
let's-
they're all appointed by the General Assembly and the governors, except for, it's the state treasurer, state auditor, secretary of state are the three that are kind of the permanent members.
And that's the same issue we had, remember, when we couldn't get the beach nourishment
I do
projects
recall
on the
very
agenda
vividly.
because.
Yep.
And I say it's not staff's fault because they listen to us when we explain that we've got the model. We can plan to say, okay, if they come in 15% over, our board will make those decisions. I even had to say that to one of the staff members, not you guys, on timing and what to do and what not to do. And we have multiple projects that can be adjusted and just, honestly, if EMS came in at 10% more, you move Public Works back 1 year and you're still done.
And the frustrating part about it is it creates a lot of extra work for Dave and his staff and it creates
Yeah, it does. I know.
costs that
Yes,
we
it does.
don't need to incur that could be put back in the projects.
Yeah,
So,
I agree. That's my frustration with this group and where are they coming from and why are they doing it?
You should register and watch the meeting.
I'd probably be a patient,
Or they're
patient,
meeting in,
calm-
Or watch the meeting.
They don't
patient
have
calm
public
observer.
comment, Rob, you'd be disappointed.
No, I could applaud their leadership.
They're meeting at the Eastern 4-H Center at September 22nd.
We'll all be there.
Yeah, let's get a bus. Dave, just one clarification, not a challenge or anything. We have listed about 46, 47 million, and we know Kill Devil Hills has a share of that EMS station. Are we going to then bill them back or somehow recover
Our-
through a fee, a lease?
What we've talked about doing and
Yeah.
what's in your model is
Yeah.
that they pay their percentage share of the debt service every year.
Right. So we will do the whole 40, I'll use 47 round numbers.
Right, that was a not to exceed, right?
Yeah, okay.
So in any of these facilities that we're partnering with another agency,
We would do that.
either we're building it and they're leasing from us, or they're building it and we're leasing from them, and the lease is essentially capital, is
Debt service.
is the debt service and the
I
maintenance.
guess.
You can say,
Okay,
Yes.
that's good.
right.
Gotcha.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
All right, thank you.
All right. County Manager?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. That leads us to the consent agenda. And on the consent agenda, you have the approval of the minutes and the tax collector's report.
Move to approve.
Motion on the floor by Commissioner Couch to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner House. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
And then item 12 are the board appointments. You have the Airport Authority. The Airport Authority recommends the reappointment of Charles Davidson, Jack Shea, and Fred Newberry for another term.
Move to reappoint.
Motion on the floor to reappoint by Vice Chairman Overman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner House. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
And then on your Parks and Recreation Advisory Council, the terms of Dion Simmons, Justin Bateman, Alan Poole have expired. The council recommends they be reappointed. And Stephanie Moxley has resigned, and the council recommends Megan Vayette be appointed to complete her term.
Pleasure of the board.
Move to reappoint Dean Simmons, Justin Bateman, and Alan Poole, and to appoint Megan Vayette to fill the term.
So motion on the floor by the Vice Chairman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner House. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
And then on your upcoming board and committee appointments in August, you have the Airport Authority Board. You just did that one. I'm sorry. Are these, we just did these, right?
Not necessarily.
Okay, we still have the East Lake Community Center Board with 2 terms expiring. The Stumpy Point Community Center Board with 4 terms expiring. In September, you have the Health and Human Services Board with 4 terms expiring, or the Nursing Home Community Advisory Council with 1 term expiring. And then in October, you have the Veterans Advisory Council with 1 term expiring.
Thank you, County Manager.
And that would be your agenda, Mr.
All
Chairman.
right, thank you, sir. That brings us to item 13. That's Commissioner's business, Manager's business. And I'd like to ask the Vice Chairman if he would kick it off first for the Commissioners today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, again, congratulations to our service pin recipients. If you add it up, it's 70 years of experience. Seems like we have that every time, but thank you. Again, the county couldn't run without you. And congratulations to Olga Roberts for getting the Employee of the Month. Mr. Chairman, I want to mention something with regard to Airport Road. Received a number of calls, and some of you may have received them as well, regarding interest in the installation of everything from a multi-use path to a sidewalk to widening Airport Road. Airport Road is in pretty rough shape, requires incessant patching of the concrete surface. It's somewhat unsafe due to its width, and you have adults and kids either riding bicycles or even pushing baby carriages on one lane or the other, which is often requiring traffic to change lanes to avoid hitting them. And sometimes they're changing lanes in front of oncoming traffic, which is creating something of a safety issue. There is, to my understanding, a DOT grant that is opening up in September to provide for feasibility studies for various types of projects. And as always, we like to get community buy-in on these things, community involvement on projects like this. It's very essential. And so I'd like to request, Mr. Chairman, if you would, to request a special meeting on August the 9th to have a public comment around that subject. This will give, depending on how that public comment comes out, time to put together the grant request to DOT regarding improvements on Airport Road. And that's all I have.
Thank you, County Manager. Would y'all look at your calendars?
Is there any chance that I've got multiple commitments on the 9th already? Is there any other date that week, Wally, that might work?
I can't do it the 9th either.
10th or 11th or something? The 9th is just not a good day in that week for me.
All right.
Yeah, I can't do that.
How about the 11th?
That would be fine.
Would that work?
Fine for me.
Are we going to do morning or evening?
I don't know, does it matters?
I don't think it matters.
My
Morning.
birthday, it matters.
11th?
Well, we'll have a, well, we'll bake you a cake.
Yeah.
The morning.
9 o'clock?
Works.
Sure.
Pardon?
Sure.
Okay, so 9
to 9 o'clock?
9 a.m. Special meeting, okay, Airport Road.
That's here, right?
Yes. Okay, everybody.
And at that meeting, if depending on what you hear at public comment, if you choose to move forward, then we'll be asking you to authorize us to move forward so Barton can get
Yeah.
that grant
Yeah,
moving.
absolutely. All right, thank you, Vice Chairman. Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioner Baker?
July 23rd, at Jeanette's Pier, we had Surfing for Autism. It was a feel-good event, and a lot of participation. I want to thank all the volunteers that were out there, as well as the young people that were out there trying surfing and so forth. To see them out there and having so much fun, it was a rewarding experience. Steve mentioned to me after, and I just kind of want to clarify something on the DARE Challenge. The expansion that's coming on, the initial opening of DARE Challenge is going to be for approximately 45 students. Justin Daniels, as well as staff there, have approached the folks in Pierce Ministries, which is in Greensboro/Jamestown, North Carolina, which is a woman's facility, to have them come and partner for a 15-bed facility that will go in the existing dormitory that they have now. And so long-range plans are looking for male and female because it is a multifaceted male-female problem, and we need to address it all. So thanks for bringing that up, Steve. It's behind-the-scenes kind of thing. I think I can speak openly because they have been in negotiations with this other treatment center all along. And didn't want to let the cat out of the bag, but I think it's safe to do that because they are working on that now. So, and that's all I had. And the other thing is, I'm going to tell you, Dave Stormont mentioned to me about the steel problem. We're running through the same thing with DARE Challenge. So that metal building is going to be steel. And so the lag time, if you'd asked me last year, were you going to be up with DARE Challenge next year? I would have told you we're going to have the 45 students in those buildings now, and we're operating fully, doing everything the way we anticipated right now. It's not going to happen like that. It's not moving on Irvin's time schedule. And this steel problem and the construction problem and the ability to find people to work and the design phase has just gone completely a lot slower than I thought have. We've got Jimbo Ward as a general contractor, knows his stuff. And I sat down with him the other day and said, Jimbo, well, you know, we need 13,000 cubic feet of dirt we're putting on the property. When we're going to start it? We start next week. Are you kidding? He said, we're still waiting for the ground and soil phase where you test and see how much poundage per square foot you're going to have for your metal building you're putting up. Mm-hmm. That's where we are.
Well,
we're trying.
Yep. That's all right. We're moving in the right direction.
We are,
That's
yeah.
a good thing. Yeah. Absolutely. Commissioner Couch.
Thank you. Just a couple of things quickly. National Aviation Day will be coming up on Friday at Dare County, Friday, August 19th at Dare Regional. That's always a lot of fun. It's a great thing for locals to get out and kind of see, get a public feel for our airport personnel and the authority, and it's popular with politicians and stuff. It's also popular with visitors. So 10 to 3 on Friday, August 19th at Dare Regional. Come on out. It'll be cool. It'll be fun. Just, you know, service pins stuff is always my favorite part. You know, our guys are just so good that it makes it easier for our supervisors and department heads to do their jobs. It's the management aspect of that becomes so much easier when you have personnel that cares and matters, and I think that was very obvious today. Each one of those recipients today, they're just all-stars, and you know, I'd be proud to be a manager in Dare County government because of the quality of our people, and I feel that way every month. Thank you, Chairman, for the nourishment projects. Report on that going remarkably well. We have an international media group down on Hatteras right now, and they're taking a look at some things, and it's going to be positive. So, I mean, our tourists are being very understanding. More Beach to Love has just been fantastic. What is Dorothy and her personnel have done, it's awesome. And lastly, I don't know if anybody picked up Current TV, did the community service thing on the crosswalks. We're looking at expanding that coming into 2023 and just being proactive to alleviate some of the crush of traffic and improve safety. So I'm excited about that. And maybe Dorothy will address it when it's, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. That is a pretty sight in Avon, isn't it?
Yes, it's amazing. It's the world-class beaches to begin with. And yes, we're exposed here, but those guys know what they're doing, and it's the right decision. We've all struggled with the fact that it's fairly expensive stuff, but we do it right, and it's a credit to from top to bottom in the county here, and it is beautiful. It looks really good. And I'm excited. We'll see how it stands up. A lot of people, when they see the run-up coming up, and the damage that run-up can potentially do, they forget about the bar formations, which does dissipate a lot of that energy. That's number one. But number two, these projects have a dune component to it. And once they get vegetated, they're also going to help. So as we look into doing this again 5 years from now, we're going to have, as the technology keeps rolling, we're going to be able to look at what has been done in 2023 and be that much better at it in 2032.
Good job. Thanks for your interview with the media, yours and Dave Halleck. That was good interview and good work. And I bet there was a pretty view coming across that Rodanthe Bridge.
It really is, and it's very efficient. Merlo Beach was getting to a point where it's dangerous when people staying in those houses there along Merlo Beach. I mean, it's dangerous. It's a blind corner. You got trash cans everywhere. And it's a safety factor. I've personally seen some people almost get clipped by an automobile, and now we're going to be able to eliminate that. And it does move traffic. That bridge was well designed.
I was going to ask you, has the angst kind of subsided on the circle there? Because it's still...
Personally speaking, it was never an issue. You got roundabouts everywhere.
Right.
It's an accepted highway safety engineering thing. And you slow down. You do the 25 miles an hour, like it says. 20 seconds later, you're 55 miles an hour. It was a non-issue.
Gotcha. Good deal. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Tobin?
Okay, well, this past couple of weeks, Steve and Bobby and I went down to Morgan City and did a sea trial on the Miss Katie, which was pretty exciting. Talk about a state-of-the-art vessel. It's actually got an AIS on the bow and an AIS on the stern. It sets a center line up down the ship. And if you plot all of your points that you have to do to transit from there to here and put your center line of the ship on the first waypoint and hit go, it'll actually drive itself all the way here, which that's pretty impressive. Other milestones on the ship, we received the certificate of documentation from the Coast Guard, which means it's officially certified to be a near-shore vessel. And we also received the ABS certification on it, which is great. Basically, the ship's been bought off by both Coast Guard and ABS. So the only hiccup on it is we've got a sticky valve, and that should be resolved this week, and then the ship will be headed this way. The other news along those lines is we received the emergency authorization to dredge the new channel to allow us to access the actual navigation span of Oregon Inlet Bridge, or Bass Knife Bridge. That emergency authorization we've not received a letter back from the state yet with a signature on it, but they've okayed it, so we're just waiting on that. After we receive that, it'll probably be at least 3 weeks before the dredge Snell has completed its work out there. And then the Merit will come and do work after that. So we're looking at probably 4 to 5 weeks out before that channel's opened up. But the emergency authorization, one of the things that we were really trying to get is to have it the same like we did in Hatteras, where that authorization allows us to go dredge there until the permanent authorization is received. And we did receive that authorization, so we can dredge there right on. And that's all I got.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I ain't gonna hold you to hopefully, it's on the way up here by the end of the week. So.
Well, you know, it.
Check's in the mail,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, check's in the mail.
If it takes 4 to 5 weeks to get the channel open,
Right.
you know, even if it got here, it's not gonna be able
Gotcha.
to dredge until that channel's
Right,
open.
no,
So.
I understand.
We got $800,000 of their money that says they need to get it up here.
Yeah,
Right.
Exactly.
yeah, they have a good incentive.
Yeah, good deal. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner House?
Yeah, like I said, that trip down there was just remarkable of going through Miss Katie from bow to stern, and it's just a remarkable vessel. I can't wait for it to get up here, but I want to make sure that when it gets up here, it's ready to go to work.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. Our day in history, General Dwight D. Eisenhower was in a Life magazine interview in 1947. And he was asked, what were the 3 decisive things that helped America, win World War II? He said, number 1 and first and foremost was the will of the American people. Second was the atomic bomb. And number 3 was the Jeep. And in 1941, the first Jeep was produced for the military on this day. And for our younger crowd, 1981, MTV first appeared on televisions across the world. And in our last commissioners meeting, we had Rambo from the SPCA. Glad to announce that Rambo found his forever home last week.
All right.
And we have a very special one here today. Meet Finn.
Our pet of the week for this week is Finn. This sweet senior doesn't let his age stop him from having a good time. Finn is a 10-year-old lab mix. He loves to be outside, playing in the water, and going for walks. Finn is hoping to find his new forever home where he can retire. If you have another dog and are interested in adopting Finn, call the shelter to schedule a dog meet. To adopt Finn or foster one of our other animals, you can come visit us Monday through Saturday at our shelter located in Manio. This week, join us at Kitten Palooza, Tuesday, July 26th at PetSmart, from 12 to 3 p.m. For more information, visit our website at www.obxspca.org or visit our OBX SPCA Facebook page.
That's a Hatteras dog.
And Finn just goes to show you, even though if you're an old dog, you still got a lot of energy and a lot of life left for you. So with that being said, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. He was flat out enjoying that pool. He was. Commissioner Ross.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of items. July 20th, I had the privilege to open up and speak to a group, Navigating the Maze of Elder Care. It was a dementia workshop devoted to caregivers primarily, and was committed to helping understand and interpret the communication as people who are sadly afflicted with memory-related illness transition along that journey and change their communications. And I just want to give a shout out to the Gentle Expert Memory Care people who are continuing to drive this very, very worthwhile initiative in our community. And it was a privilege for me to be able to speak to them and address the meeting. Number 2, we have a list of legislative goals that we've seen distributed to us. And I think I responded to everybody that I think we need, I didn't actually draft one, but I think we need a strong statement about our commitment to the Dare County Public Schools. As you pointed out correctly, we have it 5-on-5, we will have regular 5-on-5s, and we will stay close to the new board, the new administration, to ensure that the kind of outstanding performance we've seen will continue for the Dare County parents and students here. And lastly, I would ask for the board's approval and concurrence with authorizing county manager to spend or commit a budget amendment for up to a maximum not to exceed $70,000 to commit to the Operation Feral Cat Project, if you will. And that payment and management of funds will go through Finance Director Clausen's office and will be overseen and managed that way, and that we will get regular progress reports from the Dare County Animal Shelter, Mr. Coleman. So I'm asking for that approval to grant that $70,000 maximum not to exceed to be devoted to this project, and that will be focused for the next 6 to 9 months to bring this under control.
Do they have the balance?
Is that in?
Sorry, yes, there's $30,000 committed from the SPCA, so I've rounded up, and we will not exceed 70, they will be 30, we should be under. But there you can see where the money we spent on traps, mileage, and mostly the veterinary services that these 4 vets have committed to assist with the project.
So is that a motion?
Is that a motion?
Yes, it is.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's a motion on the floor by Commissioner Robb. It's been seconded by Commissioner Tobin. The floor is open for further discussion. Rob, just if you can maybe clarify a couple of things. That staff figure in there on that budget sheet, are they new, 6 people? Are they like going to be new people, or are they going to be?
Yes, we made that up.
Gotcha.
Mr. Chairman, we don't know.
I got you.
As I am learning more from those folks that were here at public comment, we may have more than enough volunteers that there will be 0 staff needed. It's just that we didn't want to leave it because of the urgency. Should we need to bring people in who will do this and get up every morning and do it, we put that in. It may not be required.
Gotcha.
The real expenses are the traps, some mileage reimbursement for running up and down to put in place and pick up the traps, and the veterinary bills.
Okay. And this program is for unincorporated Dare, correct? Are we going to actually go into some of the towns?
There'll be yes, in the towns. We did not have any discussion about not setting traps in areas that might need to be set. So I frankly didn't even think of that until you just mentioned it.
If we're intended to go in the towns, then the SPCA needs to coordinate with the towns. A couple of towns have their own
That's right.
animal control and don't use the SPCA, so the
Right.
SPCA,
Well,
so they need to make sure they're all the
geez,
same
I'm not
thing.
sure how to answer that,
Yeah,
sir.
because
I don't know.
KDH has got their own.
As does Nags Head.
Yeah,
Dax Head does
is
too,
Nags
right?
Head.
I'll get with them, but we'll make sure they all, if they're gonna do that they coordinate.
Yeah, let me add that to the motion, that if we do, it will be coordinated with the appropriate town authorities.
And I understand that these folks that plan to capture, they know where the hot spots are.
Oh, they do. They live it
And I
every day.
mean, what about Stumpy Point? What about East Lake? What about, I mean, are we going into those areas to make sure that we don't have any problems there?
Again, it's a question that I don't know the answer to. I would say yes if there was an issue. If it's a colony of 4 cats in East Lake, it may not be the top of the priority versus the 35 cats behind the Publix grocery store, so to speak. But I'm kind of leaving some of those specific details to the Feline Hope, Friends of Feline, Coastal Humane, in coordination with our animal shelter, the SPCA board, and the volunteers.
So the goal is 1,000 cats, right?
That's another made-up number. Is it 800? Is it 1,100? I don't know. But yes, a lot. More than 500, I guess I would say with assurance.
Gotcha. All right, sounds good. That's all. Danny, you have any questions?
Just want to make sure we're clear on this budget, page 2 of this handout here. You know, it's calling for a total of 95,000, but Rob, that's to you with SPCA committing 30 grand, then us not to exceed 70 is incorporated
Yeah,
in
that's,
the numbers.
yes, sir.
And we
I-
would require them to spend their 30 and then use our 70
Yes.
to minimize our cost.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
good,
it'll,
good.
yes, their 30 will be the first spent, and we will back up whatever's needed up to a maximum not to exceed.
Yeah, because they got additional cost in there, 10 and miscellaneous at 35. I'm just curious.
That's why we're going to channel this through Mr. Clausen and Ernie DeBiro, so that each invoice submitted for payment will be an appropriate invoice and paid only appropriate invoices, right? I'm looking at Dave for a, yep, that's what we talked about, Rob. He's hesitating. That wasn't the plan.
As it's represented to us, we have no way of knowing. I mean,
Well-
that's the way it works with everything.
But they're going to provide us an invoice that is, we'll do it much as we did with the dredge and much as we're going to do with affordable housing. We'll look at it, and if it seems questionable, we'll stop and make sure we got back up and
Yeah,
understand.
I wanted to ensure there's no open doors here for any kind of misuse of funds. Everything will be a legitimate, bona fide invoice in support of this effort, period. That's why I brought in Dave and his team.
Super. And we're looking at trying to get it done in 6 months?
Yes, like right now.
Gotcha.
That's why we want to get the funds authorized, and I would think people are, you're gonna see them out there this week,
Super.
ready to mobilize.
Good
Yeah.
deal.
They got trash.
That's where they're gonna go buy them right now.
Thank you for spearheading that, Commissioner Ross.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Anything else? Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
All right, that brings us to county.
Do we need to call the
Need a
vote?
vote.
Oh, I'm
didn't vote.
sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
we
sorry.
do need to vote.
It would
As-
help.
as
to vote.
amended by
It would help to
Commissioner
vote,
Ross.
wouldn't it? Yeah, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Ross and was seconded by Commissioner Taylor.
As amended.
As amended, right.
As amended, yes.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you, guys.
Yes,
County
sir.
manager?
Two things. One is, at the last meeting, you asked us to look at crosswalks and all that, and you heard from Commissioner Couch with the work that Dorothy and her team did to jump on that from the public information side. In the meantime, I've been in touch with the folks down south to talk about it, and I want to thank Mary Helen for being the person to really coordinate the various leaders of the community associations down there, and I asked them to send me something to tell me where they believe the crosswalks need to be. That request was to follow the conversation that I had with DOT. They didn't really know where the community was looking for them. And so the idea is, once I have all that, and I think I have it all now, do I? Okay, I have it all. I got some of it over the weekend. Is to get back with DOT, and now they'll start vetting those. There's some places that they may request that DOT says, look, we can't put a crosswalk there for one reason or another. So they'll go through and vet them and tell us which ones are appropriate from an engineering perspective and that kind of thing. And then we'll talk to them about, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? How are we going to pay for it? What the time frame is. So that's on an ongoing discussion. DOT was very cooperative with us, and Mary Helen and her folks moved really quick to get that information too. So we're working on that, as you all had asked us to do at the last meeting. The second thing is, in our budget, we appropriated $800,000 for lights at First Flight, behind First Flight schools for those fields. And before we got to the point where we were asking Dustin to get the RFPs together to bid that project, some folks came in with the idea to maybe let's do some artificial turf fields. And so we stopped and we had everybody stop and look at that. What we found is we found that in talking with the artificial turf folks, that really the cost to do one of those fields is about $1 million per field. And so that $800,000 wouldn't do one field, or if it would just barely do one field. And we can get probably 3 grass fields in this area behind the schools. And so for a lot of reasons, you've got lot coverage requirements and impervious surface requirements and all kinds of issues with doing turf fields on the small.
The longevity of it.
There's some timing things in there. There's some maintenance costs. The long and the short is, what I'm asking is, because we had talked about stopping, is we'd like to move forward and spend that 800,000 on those lights and go ahead and get those fields going in as quickly as we can. I can't promise you we'd have it ready for the fall soccer season. I don't know what the lag times are, but before I went forward, I wanted to come back to you because you all asked to stop and let's look at those turf fields. So that's where we are, and I need guidance on whether to go forward with that or not. And that was a conversation.
Anybody have any questions of Bobby?
I'm not educated enough on artificial turf. My immediate thoughts is the Outer Banks is not a place to try something like that unless need to be convinced otherwise. Otherwise, I agree with the county manager. I think that's the prudent way to go and a wise use of that budgeted amount.
Right. All right, you willing to make a motion?
Yes, sir, I am.
All right.
All right.
To spend that 800 on the lights.
Steady as she goes, as we've been doing all along, according to the budget.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Couch, and it's been seconded by Commissioner Bateman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, I'll yield back to Commissioner Bateman has one other item.
Yes, sir. We talked briefly a couple of years ago about hook and snag projects throughout the county, cleaning ditches and so forth. And I had shared some visions we did in the town of Kitty Hawk. I know we have issues in Stumpy Point. We have issues in East Lake. We got Rosemary in the audience out there. The thought process was, can we apply for some grants through?
We have and we are, and we also, you all have funded a stormwater management plan that's in the works.
Right.
And from that, they're gonna come in and tell us what the problem areas are, hopefully what the priorities are. Barton has, as has our soil and water person, Adam, I don't know if you all have met Adam, but has been working on various grants from various places. He's received some small grants for some small projects. And so, yes, we're aware, and as those grants become available, wherever we can use those funds, we will. And again, hopefully that stormwater plan will then give us a roadmap to what needs to be done, and we can start looking at our CIP to appropriate funds if we want to, independent of what relying solely on grants.
Bobby, several years ago, the young lady who was the soil and water gal here, I think she had a license to spray, and I think the state did some spraying, and she did some spraying and all that kind of, does that come under the?
That was a grant funded project as
grants.
well, and so as those grant funds become available, then they're used. I'll talk to Adam about that to see when and if and what the timing of that is, but if, certainly that's their role, the soil and water conservation folks, that's their role, is to try to keep those waterways clear, those canals and those kinds of things. And so, again, as funds come available, we can do that.
Did we ever determine what the vegetation was? Was it milfoil? Did we ever determine that, or did they ever tell us that? Do y'all remember?
I thought it was alligator.
Was it alligator weed?
That's what I remember, yeah.
Okay. All right. I wasn't sure, because the reason I say that is that if it was milfoil, then the state has a grant where you share it with the municipality, 50-50.
Typically, it's alligator weed, and then Phragmites, there's also some programs that would allow you to do that too.
Gotcha.
You know, one thing we found that in the town of Kitty Hawk, when you did those ditches, once you had a storm and the influx of the high tides, and when it took a lot of the debris that was keeping those ditches from flowing back out to the mouth and originally to the sound. And so the process does work, but it takes time, and you got to clean all of them.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
And just so you know, in my conversation with DOT with regard to crosswalks, I brought that subject up. And as you go through East Lake, we talked about their role in the ditches, and their role in the ditches is to recover water that runs off the road. Their role in the ditches is not to solve the community's stormwater problems. But they did say they're willing to work with us, and as we get more information and get our plan, see what role they can play to help us. So they were most accommodating.
Sounds like it's one of those catch-22 things where we can't do anything with to the ditch because it's DOT, but DOT don't do anything to the ditch because they're only responsible for it to get off the road.
So DOT, from the ditch perspective, they own the right-of-way. The right-of-way doesn't encompass the whole ditch, so the other side of the ditch isn't theirs. And so, and again, they're funded only to do drainage necessary to make sure the water doesn't stand on the road. And so they're not funded to go in and do additional drainage that might benefit the community if it doesn't benefit the road. And right now, they don't have issues with the road, so.
All right, thank you, County Manager. Thank you, Commissioner Bateman. That brings us our Public Information Officer. Ms. Hester, do you have anything for us today?
Just a couple of items. I know that the crosswalk safety has come up. That was a video that was in the works before you all initiated the safety stuff. So moving forward, one of the things that's been discussed is that in the future we'll focus on Highway 12, which extends the entire county, because that was really focused on the bypass. And so we'll definitely look at 12. And there was I hope y'all saw those when they came out. There was the adult version, and then there was a kids version that kind of looked like a video game.
It was nicely done.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we'll move on that to expand that messaging for something that's more conducive, like for Hatteras. The opioid settlement plan that you all looked at, David and I were talking, and Bobby served on that committee at the state level that was responsible for those settlement funds, and you all got a NACO award last week. So I thought that was important to mention. David mentioned it to me, so.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, I hope I'm not jumping the gun, it looks like they're gonna bring the Ellis Island, the big dredge that they moved to Nags Head, they're gonna take that back to Buxton.
Back to Buxton, yeah.
Maybe tonight.
Yeah.
So, but if that is the case, we're gonna see that that dredge sand so quickly. So that could speed that project up.
They're going to be addressing some things along those lines of why that's being done at the Wednesday meeting. I think it's a smart decision.
Yeah, I look forward to attending that meeting.
So yes, that's all I have.
Thank you, Dorothy, appreciate it. Dave, our Finance Director, you have anything else to share with us?
I'll see you Wednesday.
I got a question for you, and it may not even have any effect on us. But the feds have increased the interest rate 4 times now since the first of the year. And I realize that's on mortgages and stuff. Would that affect us in any way? These interest rates going up with what we can, as a county, do for our projects or anything?
Yes, but what we're seeing is it's probably only for a limited period of time. I mean, I can buy commercial paper now till October at like $2.50, into January or March at $3.25. But I was looking this morning, like bond rates are maxed out at 2 years, and now you get past 2 years, they're actually going down.
Gotcha.
So for a period of time, yes. Big construction projects, if rates are up, you can earn a good amount of interest to use on the project. But,
right.
The way we've been the last few years, that's just not been an issue. We can't earn more than a few $1,000. But for a little while, a year or two, yes.
Gotcha. Yeah, I thought it'd be interesting to see how that would affect us. And,
well, and let me add again, I've told you guys 100 times, we've got a portfolio loss for June 30th of 2022, and it is unrealized. We hold everything to maturity. So the good news is we booked a $2.1 million paper loss at June 30th, but fiscal 23 July reports you reverse it. So we're starting off the year with a $2.1 million gain. And You know
That's
how I
why
feel
you
about
sell
those
or
rules,
buy,
but.
just on.
That's why you stay in the
But
game.
that's what you'll see
Okay.
at the end of your audit.
Right.
So.
Very good. Thank you for explaining that. That's all I have, and so I need a motion to adjourn unless anybody else has anything until September 6th.
So moved.
All right, motion by Commissioner Ross, seconded by Commissioner House. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Those guys down